Hey, I'm trying to live until I die. Come connect, you know it's a lewd state of mind. Yeah, yeah, talking traveling. If you wanna fly, fitness and finance, living a better life, keep it raw, no filter, living with no limit. Thank you for tuning in. Come on, let's get it.
G'day mate, how are you?
Very well, thanks.
Welcome to Lured State of Mind.
Thanks for having me.
Do you want to introduce yourself to our listeners and our viewers?
Yes, my name is Rodney Graham. 49 years of age, coming 50 very soon, which is hard to say. Father of two boys, two teenagers, and I've got a beautiful wife as well. So.
And you've got a lovely accent. Where's that from?
It's from Northern Ireland. I say Ireland to people because people don't get the northern southern thing, but I do think there's a distinct difference between north and south. So yeah, it's a stronger accent, I think. So from Northern Ireland originally.
Yeah, we'll put subtitles on the.
Yeah, you might need to. Yeah.
Hey, look, it's so good to have somebody that's Irish.
Yep.
In the studio, somebody that knows about Buckfast.
Yeah.
So you've obviously heard that we're sponsored by, here you go, that's yours, sponsored by the guys at Chapel Street Cellars. So cheers to them.
Thanks.
Cheers to Buckfast. Yeah. And you know what it tastes like, so it's not going to be a surprise to you, is it?
Yeah, I'm familiar. I've been partial to experiencing a few drinks that over the years, so it's
Have you got any bad memories of drinking this though? Because I can't see with the amount of caffeine that it's got in it. I mean, it's not going to be the same as like a Black Heart rum or something, is it? You know,
right. It's certainly. I think it's one of those ones. I mean, my wife's Scottish, so I think it's quite popular in Scotland.
Yes, it is.
The Scottish seem to love it. I seem to get more familiar. I lived in Scotland for probably just under 10 years, so I probably would have drank it more there. And even, believe it or not, in the morning time at breakfast, we used to drink just at last, which was really quite nice as well and refreshing. But it's got that bit of a buzz about it, and definitely gets a bit of adrenaline through your body. So
well, 15% alcohol, and it's got more caffeine in it than Red Bull.
That's right.
So you can see why people are drinking it in the morning.
That's
it's
right.
great. It is a great.
It
like
is.
if you when you go out with the lads and you go into the pub and you're just feeling a little bit lethargic.
Yep.
Great way to start the night off. Yep. Great way to finish the night off.
It is.
It is.
It
And we found out the other day it's got fuck all calories in it.
And it's cost effective as well. It's not massively expensive.
No, it's brilliant. So the guys at Chapel Street Cellars, Rob and Joe, they're the importers of it to Australasia. So
very good.
Exactly. They're great. Now, Northern Ireland.
Yes.
Born and bred.
Born and bred. Yes.
Where in Northern Ireland?
I'm from County Tyrone, so it's the biggest county in Ireland, believe it or not. So 6 counties in the north and 26 in the south, which sounds again complex again, but Ireland is a little bit of complex when you look at it like that. So the biggest county in Ireland, I say to people, it's about 50 miles from Belfast. Most people kind of know where Belfast is. Yep. So that being said, it's nowhere near Belfast. It's in the country heading towards. So when you mention Belfast, oh yeah, I know where that is. You haven't a clue where Belfast is either. So, but not far from Belfast, heading towards the country, heading towards Donegal direction actually from Belfast.
Okay. Well, anybody that's got Google can Google the map on that and have a good look.
That's right.
So you said you're 49.
49.
59.
Yes.
When's 50 coming up?
October the 1st. So yeah, a couple of months.
Have you got a big celebration planned?
Not massively. My younger son, he's turning 16 in mid-September, so we're going to maybe try and do a little bit of a mixed gig. I think that's the way we're going to roll with it this year. We might head off maybe overseas. We're not sure yet, but that's the plan. So if we can do something together, that'll be fun, I reckon.
Any apprehension about turning 50?
No, I haven't thought about it much actually. I think I feel younger now than I ever have. So I definitely don't feel 50, but
you don't look like you're coming up to 50, mate.
Is that right? Well, I'll take that as a compliment. But so it's but yeah, it's hard to believe actually 50 does. But I do think 40 is the new 50 nowadays. I don't think 50 is old anymore, or even 60 is that old, So I think it depends how you want to think about it and look at it. But for me, it's not something I think about a lot.
It's good.
I'm happy with that.
It's good because a lot of people dwell on it. I know. I had a bit of a problem with it, turning 50. Yeah. Yeah, I mean it's documented in one of our podcasts, but it was definitely a milestone in my life, and I've definitely made a lot of changes since turning 50.
Yep.
My attitude's changed a little bit towards certain things. So it's a good thing. It's a good thing. And once again, I'm fitter and healthier now than I've ever been.
That's right. And I think it's just one of those things that I think there's no time like now to do something like that. So it doesn't matter whether you're 40, 50 or 60. There's always a time you can make some changes. So I've certainly made some later changes later on from I got into, I guess a little bit of running and that. But I think you can always make some good changes that, it's never too late to do them. So, it's just a shame that a lot of people have to have a catalyst for that to happen. That's right.
Something's got to happen in their life for them to understand that they're not doing things the way that they should be doing for longevity.
That's
because
right.
as we were discussing prior to going to air,
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that work their asses off, slave to pay the mortgage and feed their family, and then they retire at 65 with ill health and haven't got the capabilities to do what they want to do, like travel, like a lot of people want to do, travel.
I think that's pretty common out today, and not even in Ireland it's the same. I mean, I think globally is that thing where you, I guess you just work and before you know it, your life's almost gone, and then there's not much time to do any of the exciting fun things because either you can't do it, you're too old, or maybe you haven't just got the health to go, to go to them places. So it's
well, that health and fitness is that's the message we're trying to get across. It doesn't matter how old you are or where you are in your life. It's going to be important for later on in life. Maintaining muscle mass and all that stuff.
Yeah, for sure.
How long were you in Ireland before you left your hometown? Because I know you didn't stay in your hometown.
Yeah, I didn't. So I mean, from a young age, I did stay around the area from a young age, but as I got, I guess when I was 30, I'm going to say maybe, let me get this math right, maybe 30. Or even 29, 28, I moved to Scotland, and that's where I met my wife as well. And I had an opportunity to work on some great organisations when it comes to resorts and food and 5-star resorts and that, which has been really good. So, but it's like anything, you don't forget your home. Anytime I do go home, it's like it's funny. The last time I was there, which was 2018, and I had to fly over for my mum's 70th birthday surprise party, and I was only there for 5 days. And I hadn't been home for 6 years before that, and it's typical a little pub because in the village where I'm from, there's probably more pubs than there is houses.
I've heard that.
Yeah,
that's just standard, isn't it?
Yeah, and it doesn't matter what whether it's the football club or the rugby club or the soccer club or the Gaelic. Each kind of sport has their own kind of clan as such. But yeah, this old fella said, "Oh, I haven't seen you for a few weeks. How you been?" I said, "I've been gone for like almost 6 years." It means 2 weeks. I've been, but it hasn't changed a bit, and that's the beauty about it, and that's the bit I like about it. You go back and it's nothing changes that much, and I kind of like that thing, where it doesn't need to change. Sometimes things don't. They're okay the way they are.
I agree. If it ain't broke, don't try to fix it.
And they're happy. They're enjoying themselves, and that's the main thing.
So we're talking about sport. Did you play sport as a kid?
I did. Huge into rugby union, which I think is the only rugby. Again, hopefully I'm not bagging anybody here, but
well, hold on a tick. You know you're in a safe space, don't you?
Yeah.
I'm a Kiwi, obviously all black through and through.
Yes.
It's part of my DNA.
Yep.
Mav plays rugby.
Yep.
It's what we know. So you're in a safe space. Let's talk rugby.
Rugby was a big part of my younger days from school. Right through from the school, it was a rugby school. And back then, actually in Ireland, I mean, apart from rugby, of course, we call it football over there, the round ball. Here they call it soccer. We call it football. So. Which is not just not to get things mixed up there, but it's rugby was always the main sport in the school. Yes, there was other sports there as well, but predominantly it was rugby. And of course, the PE teacher or the sports teacher, if they're into rugby, you're playing what they want to like, or what they enjoy. So. I played rugby right through from under 12 or 13 right through to a decent level. Actually, a few of us were selected to go for trials for Ulster, which is one of the interprovincials of Ireland. So split up into 4. So you got Ulster, Leinster, Munster, and Connaught, and Ulster being from Northern Ireland. Then. I didn't progress much into that. It was quite a busy space, quite a lot of good good standard school, and mainly grammar school as well, although I came through the public school in the area. But again, you're dealing with some really good quality sports players at that age, So
I can imagine grassroots rugby
very
was just
competitive.
insane.
Extremely competitive.
Mav just had a very similar experience. He was just trialling for the Vic team.
Yes.
Under 15s, under 16s,
Yep.
and just the depth and the class and the skill of these young men
That's right.
is crazy. And when you look at Victoria Rugby and you look at the downfall of the Rebels,
Yep.
it's sad in that respect. And we were actually commenting that by not having that team in the Super Rugby means that Melbourne might not get the Rugby World Cup final when it's here in 2027.
That's right.
Which is a travesty. I mean, the MCG
100%.
is the only place in Australia that final should be played because of the
Yeah.
capacity, because of the
Yep.
I don't know if you know Sydney Stadium. It's just a shit to get in and out
Yeah,
of.
okay. Yeah, I haven't been. Yep.
It's. I mean, compared to the MCG, the MCG.
Yes,
It's just amazing. So that flow-on effect is really sad, and
Yep.
I hope that at some point it's rectified. But once again, it comes down. What position did you play?
Yeah, well, whenever I was, I think from a younger age I did, and again being more of the the bigger kind of guy. Then I used to play tight head prop for a long time, which I quite enjoyed. Then as I got a little bit taller, I moved more into the second row, and then I did do a couple of seasons in the back row. I played number 8 for a while, which I think is one of the best positions on the ground. Especially if you're, I mean, I wasn't super fit, but if you've got a little bit of weight and a bit of strength and a bit of speed, burst speed, you can do a little bit of damage from the back of the scrum, depending where you are. So I like that position because you weren't locked in as much. You had more freedom around the ball, and you could, I guess, get involved more in the game, especially with the play using the flankers and that. So, but I guess most of my time was within the front or the second row. Yeah. Back then, you weren't allowed to even lift in the scrums, and you weren't allowed to do that. It was all kind of very different. Well, yeah, there wasn't. I mean, we kind of did it a little bit, but it wasn't something that certainly was encouraged. But when you look at it now, I mean, what a great advantage that is to keep that continuity of the game going. It just speeds the game up.
Yeah, exactly.
And I mean, we were playing against people I was scrummaging against guys that are 40 years of age with beards, and I'm 16 years of age, and they're cutting the face at me with their big raspberry beard, and I'm going, Jesus, and they're almost breaking your neck or nibbling your ear at the same time. So it's but a great way to learn the tricks in the front row, I think.
It builds character, doesn't it?
It does. You might lose an ear now and again, but apart from that.
Well, that's good. I'm so happy for you. I mean, a lot of people don't understand rugby union.
That's right.
But I mean, we're at the last World Cup in France, and just I mean, they were getting over 100,000 at the pool matches in Stadium France. It was just insane.
That's right.
I mean, and globally, it is big.
It's a big game, and in Ireland, it's now I think one of the biggest sports in Ireland. I mean, Ireland, and again, not being biased, but I think their rugby has leaped and bounded over this last 10 years, and they've had some great players there. O'Gara and O'Driscoll and them kind of guys have really inspired. But even the club that I was belonged to back then, I mean, they play at a really, really great high level now. So I was there, lucky enough, at the start, whenever that club was almost created at the very start, and played through that kind of junior rugby with them, and then through work and things, and other things happened, and then I moved from that. But that club now is, even though it's only probably 30 years of age or thereabouts, they've done some phenomenal things, and they're playing at a seriously high level. So rugby, and even again having the females playing, that's huge as well. So I mean, Ireland, I think I'm right to have beat the All Blacks. I think maybe a couple of times, maybe, I think, off and on recently.
Yes.
So
yeah, look,
not to rub that in, but yeah.
No, not at all. No, I understand the way that some of these nations have shifted.
Yes.
Within the rankings, and it's all down to coaching and the infrastructure that they have and the importance that they put on the game.
Yep.
I mean, you look at the Japanese team. They've come leaps and bounds, and we love watching them every time they play because it's just so rewarding to see these nations, these minnow nations, taking on Goliaths and getting really good results
and doing very well, and being competitive. Where years gone by they weren't competitive. They were ran over the whole time.
That's all people want. They just want a good hard game of rugby.
That's right.
Not a one-sided affair.
That's right.
The All Blacks. I mean, we could talk about them all night, but you're right. Their dominance it is not. They are not. Sorry, I'll start again. They do not have the dominance that they once had.
Yeah, I
and
agree.
and I think with a lot of teams, you look at an AFL Premiership winning team,
Yep.
they may be great one year and then the next year they're absolutely turd.
That's right.
So, like other sports, they go in cycles of like 4 years for the World Cup or championships. Same with Olympics.
Yes.
So as a Kiwi, it's hard to see them be beaten, but I love to see them win. So
Yeah.
it's sometimes it's difficult. Sometimes it's hard to watch, but
It is.
when you're so passionate about something and you've grown up with them and that's what you know.
Yeah, 100%. And you know that it's in their blood, and when you look at, they've went through a huge change, I think, over this last few years, with some great players retiring and moving on. And but the thing about the Kiwis, they've always had that depth of just people to pick out of. I mean, they've got so many to choose from. I mean, you're literally born with a rugby ball in your hand over there.
That's correct.
It's a little bit like Wales. Wales is the same.
Yes.
They've got that real passion about rugby, and Ireland's like that a little bit now as well. And I think once you have that kind of level of passion and commitment, and you want to pull the jersey on not just for the money but for the real pride, I think that's when you get some great players.
Yeah, definitely.
People who actually want to go that little bit further, hit that little bit harder, and push things, because that's the difference between winning and losing, I think.
Oh, and when people pull on those jerseys and they've got that flag or that crest on their chest, I mean, that just gives them superpowers, which is great.
Right.
We've got a lot of good rugby coming up this season,
There
actually.
is.
We've got the Welsh coming to Australia.
Yep.
I think the English are going to New Zealand.
I believe, yes. And then you've also got then the I think the Barbarians, I think they bring them together and they tour as well. So there's a lot of rugby coming over. But yeah, you're right. It's such a shame to see the Rebels where they are now. I think that's going to probably lose a lot of great opportunities for great players around this area here to capitalise, because there's not much more rugby union apart from that around here.
No, exactly. Yeah. And I think as far as states go with regards to foundation players and grassroots, I mean, Melbourne is probably one of the top states other than New South Wales.
Yes.
And Queensland. So it is important for Australian rugby. And it's going to be young guys coming through the system that are probably going to miss out.
That's right.
There's less spots to fill, and they're going to have to go through other feeder systems to try to put their hand up and get selection.
Yeah, it's going to be harder. Yeah.
Look, I hope the Australian team, with their new Zealand coach, don't correct me if I'm wrong, they've got a New Zealand coach, haven't they?
I believe. I mean, I'll be honest, I've taken my eye a little bit off the Wallabies.
Can you Google that, Mav? Just do a fact check. It was because we watched them obviously at the last World Cup, and it was it was disappointing to see.
It was, because
you don't want to see a nation fall from grace like that, and it was decisions made from the top down.
That's right.
Which was it's hard to swallow. There was a lot of bad decisions made, but hopefully they learn from it, and because as you say, the rugby and the grassroots over here is good. It's strong.
The foundation's really strong there, and and you look at the players over the years, with
there you go, Joe Schmidt.
Yeah.
Joe Schmidt actually coached the Irish team, did he not?
Yes, I think he did years ago. Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Is that up there? No.
Him coaching I think.
British. He's coaching until the end of 2020. Is that what that says, Matt? 2025?
Yeah.
So Rugby Australia has confirmed Joe Schmidt has been appointed as Wallabies coach.
Yeah.
Schmidt signs a 2-year deal starting in March, committing to the side until the end of the British and Lions tour in 20. That's going to be a big tour, isn't it?
That'll be a big one, yeah. And you see,
I remember when they were here last. We saw them at
Yep.
It was the MCG, it was insane.
And you see a lot of Irish players playing on that team. A lot of Irish. They've got a huge amount of Irish squad within that team as well. So yeah. But
well, he's a Kiwi. He's going to do some good, obviously.
Well, he'll. I mean, if anything, he'll bring. I think it needs a little bit of a rebuild. And again, I'm no expert in that space. I know they've got their challenges, and I know they've got a lot of things. They've got issues, but it is a little bit of a rebuild job, I think. But they've had some great players over the years, so there's no doubt that the core is there and the foundation's there. It's just making some really good directional choices, and I think that's where they've maybe failed. And then ultimately, I think, and again, I genuinely believe that years gone past, I mean, the Australians haven't played with pride, and hence the reason it hasn't worked out for them. They haven't had that passion or that love or that care.
Yeah,
really,
well,
and
I
that's
mean,
what it is.
as you say, that starts from the top, doesn't it?
Well, it's gotta be there,
If
yeah.
if you're not being inspired by your coaches and management,
That's right.
and it's a toxic environment.
It is.
You can't play your best rugby, can you?
There's only one way to go after that.
Exactly.
Yep.
Hey, look, I didn't think we were going to talk about rugby as much as we
There
did,
you
but
go.
thank you. It's just you're my first guest that actually understands
Yeah.
what I'm talking about, even though I don't know what I'm talking
No,
about when
it's
it
okay.
comes to stuff like this. Hey, man, you've been a chef. I've got
Yes.
down here. You've been a chef for 25 years.
Just over
Had-
25 years.
Had
yes.
been a
Yeah,
chef.
that's right. Yeah.
So when did you start your apprenticeship, and how did that happen? How did it all come about?
Yeah, I live in a small village back home. Did all the schooling. Again, typically I quite liked school, but I wasn't a lover in the sense where I
Were
couldn't
you a
wait to go
good
this
kid?
day.
Were you a good kid or a rat bag?
Yeah, no, I was pretty good. I think I'm the youngest of 4 boys, so like anything, I've probably done it tough.
But you're a mama's boy.
No.
No?
Well, I think no, she was pretty fair, but I think deep down I might have been a little bit more extra care, I guess. But yeah, we were lucky, and growing up with four boys in the house wasn't easy. So it was dog eat dog in there. Sometimes you gotta get first to that trough where you're missing out. Yeah, youngest of 4, growing up, I guess. Typical, very, very usual scenario. Small community, and I guess after school, at that space of understanding what I want to do, where I want to go, what type of work would I like to do, and I always, I guess, being familiar with the beverages over the years. I have spent a bit of time with my parents and I guess in pubs and different things like that over the years. It was always an environment I quite enjoyed. I quite enjoyed that kind of humour and jokes and I guess that kind of thing. So for me, I always thought, I wouldn't mind working in a bar. That'd be fun. That'd be kind of good as a young person. So one of the local villages not far from where we lived then had a nightclub, and I initially started off working in the nightclub. I think at 16, I had finished school then. I was all done. I quite liked that environment. I was picking up glasses and doing stuff, all the usual things, and then I actually ended up working full time in the bar there for probably about a year and a half.
Hold on a tick.
Yep.
Hold on a tick. So you said 16.
Yes.
How old do you have to be? Didn't you have to be legal drinking age to work in a bar?
Yeah. Well, I think then
Because it's 18 in Ireland, isn't it? Is it?
it is, yes.
Yeah.
But I think if you're picking up glasses and things like that, you're allowed to do that, providing you're not actually serving alcohol. So,
And you would have looked
which I
about
wasn't.
24 at 16, wouldn't you?
Yeah, no, I well, it was pretty. I'm like my youngest son, actually. I think I shot up pretty quickly in around about 15 or maybe 16, 17. I seemed to spring up a wee bit taller then, so I probably didn't look as old as I was then. But so I was picking up glasses and doing all the usual things, cleaning out the bins, all the other stuff that you would normally do usually throughout the night. It was probably the local nightclub, the main nightclub for that area. So they might have 1,000 people in there on a Saturday night. It was pretty pumping.
That's insane.
Yeah, for a small village then, everybody would have travelled for 20, 30 miles to go there because it might have been the only local nightclub that was pretty good, So, and the music was quite good, and they had a local DJ who was doing all the things. So that's what I ended up doing. But then I ended up working, as I got older then, I ended up working full time in the bar, not so much in the nightclub, in the main bar. And then I had an interest spending a lot of time within the kitchen and serving food and so on and so on. I thought, I quite like that kitchen environment. It's a busy environment. There's a lot of noise. It's got quite a lot of drama in there, and there was always, never a dull moment. There's always something going on, or there's always an argument, or there's always something's gone wrong, or whatever, or someone's forgot this from that table, and who knows what. So I thought, I could see myself in that space. So I ended up doing a little bit of part-time work within there, and just your basic preparation of vegetables and so on and so on. And I took it on pretty quickly, and I really liked it. Enjoyed that area, I enjoyed that kind of work, and I enjoyed getting involved and learning the cooking. And albeit it was pretty back then, it was pretty pub food type food. It wasn't like restauranty or high end or Michelin star by any means. I mean, the clientele there is farming community. a lot of people around the area, would have been from that agriculture background. So that's your bread and butter of that and clientele around that space, which is a great business, because these people love to get out, they love to eat their meat, they love to eat all that kind of stuff, and of course they enjoy a drink as well. So I ended up then going back then to finish off, or I guess start some form of qualification when it comes to cooking, and I went back then to the local college, which was up the road, and I did then 3 years doing different qualifications right through, where I was qualified right through from all the sorts of your usual basics right through then to butchery, bread, pastry, etc., and then I finished off. By that stage I was full-time in the kitchen, working in the kitchen full-time, so my day off that week, which I had two, if you're lucky enough to have two, but definitely the one day, which was a Tuesday, I used to spend all day at the college. So it was a bit of a commitment to get that done, but I wanted to have some sort of qualification. So when I left there, I could then move on to other things or do other things after that.
So, by the sounds of it, there's the Kiwi mentality where you do everything with regard, as you say, with pastry, with bread, with so bakery, sweets, all the rest of it. So, is that standard for cooking now to become a chef, that you do every aspect of being a chef? Because isn't there, and then you specialise from that? Is that how it works?
I think that's the basis of how it should work. I was saying to Mev earlier on there. It's like, I mean, nowadays everybody from MasterChef or whoever wants to be Gordon Ramsay or Jamie Oliver tomorrow, and I do think behind the romance, the reality is. You're working long hours, and you're working every weekend, every public holiday, every bank holiday back then it was called back there. When everybody's off enjoying themselves, you're working. In fact, you're working harder in them days. And so you gotta have to love it to get into it. But the basis of that is exactly, I think when you're cooking initially or learning or going through them basic qualifications, you will get, I guess, exposed to all of the elements. Should that be right through from fish to meat to offal, right through then to your pastry and so on and so on. And I think that's a great thing, because you kind of dabble at them all, but you're not a master of none of them. When you do get on through and you do get in, let's say, into a bigger brigade, then you can branch off and be more specific into a certain area. If you would, rather be let's say a pastry chef or a butcher or a bakery, whatever it would be, then you can specialise in that space. Or perhaps maybe it's chocolate work or even ice work, whatever the case is, as in carving ice. There's so many areas that you can go down. It's so it's quite a broad industry, and it can expose you to lots of different areas.
Well, and expose you to a lot of travel.
Definitely.
And as you were saying to Mav earlier,
that's right. Yeah.
There's all these opportunities to do certain things in certain places while doing something that you love. Now,
right.
Who inspired you when you were younger to want to cook?
I think it has to be both my grandmothers were really great home cooks, and I mean, it's like anything. The whole idea back then was to make a poor set of a pig's ear. There was nothing fancy. There was nothing, I guess, high end. A lot of stuff was grew in the paddock, right through from your basic carrots, potatoes, vegetables, etc. But again, nothing was super expensive, and your best cuts and so on and so on. So I think over the years, being exposed, and even now, even for example, this morning I made pancakes with my kids this morning at early at 7:30. Or sorry, yesterday morning, not this morning, at 7:30. And it's them little things to be able to go and make pancakes or make crepes or even make bread. And we call it Granny Graham's bread at home, or Granny Graham's. Everything has to be Granny Graham's. Because that's where I learned that from her. And I think it's learning them great little recipes that I have really installed in my kids that are young age now, that they look forward to when Granny Graham's bread's made. It just smells different from other bread. It's just got that different smell about it, and it's super easy, basic ingredients, but it just tastes amazing.
And those are the memories they're going to grow up with. As
right.
I said, like me standing on a box next to my mum at the stove, and when she was teaching me how to cook, those memories are going to stay with you, and that skill you're going to pass on hopefully to your kids as well too.
Even things like making jam or making curds, as in lemon curd, because there would have been lemons there, or there would have been loads of whatever, something like that, or rhubarb, for example. Making these things now, I mean, who would go and make rhubarb jam today? But
there's a lot of people that don't even know what rhubarb is, mate.
That's right. But for me, it's one of those great flavours, and it's cheap to make, and you could bang out 50 jars before you know it. I mean, what a great thing to make. So that's the kind of the background of making it big and going hard at it, and then that lasts for perhaps a month or two.
So apart from your grandmother, was there anybody else that you aspired to in in the chef world? Was there anybody, as you say, you got Master Chef now. I mean, my generation, a lot of people know about Anthony Bourdain.
Yes.
God rest his soul.
Mm.
I mean, he inspired me to do, not just to learn more about what I'm eating, but to travel to find the stuff that is special, and to share those meals with people, because we're talking about food is the universal binder, and you're going to share all these experiences with your family around meals, and it's been done for millennia. It's just part of human nature to sit down and eat and converse, and I think there's a lot of cultures, especially a lot of Western cultures, that are losing that tradition. You look at the Italians and Europeans, and that's everything evolves around food.
That's right. And it opens up. I mean, we do it, or we try and do it as much as we can. And we do. And sometimes myself and my wife, we see it really, really important to bring our kids around. We it's a good way of catching up what's happening at school, or different things outside their sporting way. Because sometimes we live busy, as we're doing here, we're passing each other in the corridor, different things happen. You don't get a chance to speak about, how are you going? How is that little girlfriend you had there? I think you had a girlfriend last time. How is that traveling? So it's these kinds of things. And it's also a way of being able to, again, come down to their level to see where their challenges is, and if they are having some issues or struggles, perhaps it might be at work or at school, or perhaps some sort of friend group, whatever it is, because these things happen. It's a good way of getting around. But I think it's just I think you're right, it's just a great culture to bring people around, and even if it's for 20 minutes, I think it's a brilliant thing to do. So we try and do it as much as we can.
It's brilliant.
Yeah.
As you say, a lot more people should be doing it.
Definitely.
People are busy. I get it. I understand it. My wife and I eat out a lot, and we like to eat out at different places. And especially when we travel, we'll go down those alleys and look for those places where the locals eat.
That's where the good food is.
Yeah, exactly.
That's right.
So what was the most enjoyment you got out of being a chef? And if we can just back it up a little bit, because for our listeners' point of view, what's the difference between a chef and a cook?
Well, I think the difference for me from what I would see it, I think a cook has always been traditionally. I would see a cook, like, I would put it in that, almost in that, I'm not going to say school meals area or that kind of area, but someone perhaps who would be doing batch cooking, large amounts of foods and dishes where you can do basic, good quality, simple, well-seasoned foods, nothing extravagant, nothing that's going to be too complex for people to understand, not got 100 different types of different things in there. It's your basic, good standard, day-to-day quality food. So I kind of see a lot of, back then, whenever, our school meals back then, which we had every day, I see that being your typical cook, Or that being said, I had the opportunity when I moved to Scotland, and I worked in a place called the Gleneagles Hotel, which is, I think now is the only 5 Red Star resort in the UK. I might be wrong, but back then it certainly was. And I mean, it's a monster of a machine to work in. Back then we had probably about, I'm going to say, 150 chefs in the resort, and there was 9 different outlets, ranging right through from your informal to your formal kind of dining. Your country clubs, we had 3 large championship golf courses which had a big restaurant attached to that, different kind of foods. We had a restaurant out in the middle of the course, like the halfway house, which again had that kind of drop-in type food but needed managed, super busy. And then we had a country club as well, and then we had all sorts of these different areas and different segments to the business. So for me, when you go into that kind of space and then you start off again, I was just moving over there, fairly new, only been cooking and I thought I knew it all, coming from this hotel, which were banging out whatever it was, your basic food, pub food, day to day, and it was going out fast. When you go into that environment, then it's all about consistency, preparation. I mean, and I was really lucky to work with some really, really great chefs, and had the opportunity then to do a little bit of traveling with stars. I mean, I did a little bit of time in Russia, which was interesting. Spent some time down with a guy called Marco Pierre White in London, which was really interesting. And for me, he's to me is almost like the godfather of cooking, in my opinion.
So you worked with Marco Pierre?
I worked in his main restaurant called the Mirabelle, and I was only there, in fairness, for probably, I think, maybe 3 months. And that's his in I forget the name of the area, right in the middle of London. But that was back then was his baby. I think he might have others now, but I think he still holds on to that. He's let go of his Michelin stars now, and he's took a different direction with food. But yeah, I worked with him, but I wouldn't have seen him often. He was in and out, busy man, as you know, back then. And but yeah, I learned a lot of great skills down there as well. So. Them kind of types of environments. I love people like Heston. I worked with another fellow called John Campbell, who was Heston's head chef, who had his own restaurant then across in Berkshire. While I was down there, I did another stage then with him over there, a place called The Vineyard, 2 Michelin star. Marco was the first to have 3 Michelin stars in the UK, and so. It's very different when you look at the space where I used to work to thinking I'm working with the best ingredients now, the best equipment, the best technology. It's a different ball game. You're not playing with your normal stuff. This is good. So it's all about precision, quality, consistency, and we used to call it the 6 P's, which was prior preparation prevents piss poor performance, and that was drilled into us every day of the week. So that kind of thing, which I think really got you to understand about the importance of food. And when you work with those people, then you also understand, which is super important, how to make money as well. Because if you're not making money, you're no good to no one. So you got to know how to really, from a management point of view, then run that. So as then towards the end of my time then in Scotland, which I left in 2006, from 2003 to 2006, I worked. I was then the executive sous chef of the resort, and you're then running it like a machine. There was no cooking at all. You were basically doing the ordering for the resort. You were forecasting the revenue you would take for the next day and spending accordingly the day before to make sure you would meet the food cost. All these kinds of things, which are unbelievably great knowledge to have, because if you can transfer that then into even a small cafe nowadays, that's at the end of the day you got to make money. If you're not making money, you're gone.
Well, you look at all the news these days about restaurants and that closing down because they can't make money. Right. Cafes, it's just getting the costs are just prohibitive. And it's sad because there's a lot of institutions that are falling by the wayside. But you got to, well, as you say, it's about management. It's about knowing in preparation what's going to happen that night or that day.
Yes.
And you can only prepare for that so much.
That's right.
And of course, the economic situation at the moment with the cost of living, it is very tough, and there's a lot of people doing it tough out there. Yeah. You've seen everything from pub food to becoming a sous chef. You've seen the whole gamut, and you've had obviously some amazing experiences, worked with some amazing people. How satisfying is that? And when you look back on your career, because you're not a chef anymore.
That's right.
How satisfying was that?
Oh, it was unbelievable, and I tell my kids a lot. I mean, I met my wife there, and I think it's quite normal to meet your partner within hospitality because you spend so much time at work. You don't actually, in your days off, you're either resting or you're collapsed, or or if you're lucky enough to have it, that time off at all. And there's many times where I've went for 4 weeks without any time off, just because the business demands are there. You can't get the staff. Somebody's sick, whatever the case is. Something's happening. There's a big company in, whatever. There's something on. It literally swallows your life. I was there when we held the G8 Summit. Then back in 2000, I think it was 2002 or 3, and that was an interesting time as well to try and work obviously with the world leaders there. The security was unbelievable. The resort was closed. You can imagine the checks, and of course we had back then, I think Tony Blair was the Prime Minister. The Queen was there. She was there for her one night, whatever it was. So I've had the chance to meet a lot of the world leaders then and understand and get and be involved in that, and I mean, what a great experience. So not everybody can do that. So for me, I have these chats with my kids all the time.
Mate, that's amazing. That is absolutely amazing. Yeah. So you can technically say that you've cooked for the Queen. Yeah,
well, listen, we were part of that. We certainly designed the menus around that, and with her people, whatever it was, and but it's a huge event. I mean, right through from the start to the end. You can imagine the planning and that there. Everything. We actually stayed at the resort while the summit was on because we weren't allowed to leave. because there were so many outlets, I looked after the media centre. That was my role then. We had 4,000 media there for the space of 3 days: breakfast, lunch, dinner, and night time. So right through from it was just almost like a massive factory, and we had, I think, there was 50 chefs in there, and that was an interesting time as well. But
Was there a lot of alcohol consumed?
yeah, I'm not too sure. Well, there would have been, of course, and well, I'm
Not by you. I mean by the guests, by the dignitaries,
Possibly,
and
yeah.
and all the media. I can imagine the media.
Yeah, that's right.
They'll get their work done as they're doing then.
That's right.
So I've got a question for you. Was there any dietary requirements for the Queen that you saw? Was there any specific do's and don'ts?
Yeah, I can't remember the detail of them, honest. There would have been, no doubt, and there would have been preferences that she would have preferred to have, and of course she would have got that. So, I mean, I can't remember the detail. Although I do have all the old menus that we done from start to finish. I've kept a copy of them at home. Some of them are signed by different world leaders then. Because we got to meet obviously people like Tony Blair come in, but we also got to meet, the President of France. He was there, and different people. They come in to see us as a team. We got to shake their hand. We all lined up and all the rest, so it was really good. But yeah, I kept all the menus. But on that night in particular, the Queen, I can't remember what that menu was, but I do have all the menus from scratch to right to the end, and I would have played a part of designing and helping and making sure the sourcing and making sure that obviously the quality of the ingredients were important. But coming from Scotland, the ingredients over there are unbelievable.
Did
Right
she do a walkthrough through all the staff? Were you? Did you bow for the Queen?
I didn't meet her. I didn't. I would have been busy at something else, I think. But I think there was a few of mainly the front of house team. I don't think she came in around the kitchen. But even that morning, we had obviously all the security. The search dogs were through the kitchen. It was crazy. It was like something you would never see.
Well, it's something you see in a movie, isn't
that's
it?
That's right.
It's exactly.
So it was a different world completely. But again, just to be part of that for me was a great memory, and yeah, it's something that I look back. And we designed a little book, or I didn't, but Glen Eagles did. So everybody who worked then at the time got a book, and we were all a few of us were interviewed. So I've got a little chapter in there with the area that I would looked after, and a little statement that I made, and that's something that I'll have forever.
That's unbelievable. Look, I'll tell you what. If I'd known, I would have said bring in those menus, and with that would have been amazing to see.
That's right. Yes.
Maybe I'll see it sometime over a buckfast.
Maybe.
Man, that's an awesome part of your life. I mean. When I look at your resume and it's I'm a chef for 25 years, the last thing you think of is that you've technically cooked for the Queen and all these dignitaries and world leaders.
Yep.
Let's talk about Russia for a minute, because that piqued my interest.
Yeah.
How long were you there for, and what were you doing?
I was there twice. We did which was called almost like a transfer team. So. We were able to go over there and I guess host a Scottish menu for a period of time within a very fancy high-end restaurant. And the objective from the resort then was to tap into that. I mean, in Russia, as you probably know, there's a lot of money from that high-end, not so much in the middle, and then there's a lot of people with nothing at all. So it's quite a top-heavy society.
It's a
there.
fucked up system, isn't it? When you think about it.
It is. So. We went in. So the first time I was there, it was the same idea. And the second time, then we worked in a restaurant space then, which was actually better for me. And the beauty about that was, I brought 3 people with me. So we had believe it or not, we had a New Zealand girl. She was our pastry chef, so she was really great. And then we had another guy. He was a pastry chef, came also as well, and then myself. So 3 of us went then for. I think we were there for a month and a half, say 6 weeks or so. But really interesting. We went there, and I'm not joking, I got off the plane and my eyes almost closed with a frost straight away. This dude picked us up in this ladder, and it was like a...
So hold on, back that up. He didn't pick you up in a ladder.
A ladder, yeah.
L-A-D-A.
Yeah.
Do you know why they've got 2 exhaust pipes at the back?
I don't know.
It's so when they break down, you can pick them up and wheel them like a wheelbarrow.
Well, it seemed to be the common car back then. I mean, I'm sure it's changed now, but
I doubt it.
Ladders, yeah, ladder. I remember them well because my grandfather had one years ago. A pretty heavy big car, actually, heavy car, but
built like a Russian tank.
I mean, and they're everything was ice. I don't know how we ever even survived the trip from the airport into actually Moscow where we were based, but we were very lucky. We had We had an interpreter for the period of the time we were there. The first few days was hard because we were getting over there, and in that restaurant where we were, they were very really strict about which made sense about the costing and making sure that everything was all right, and everything had to be sent over prior to make sure the dishes suited. But basically, we were there to, I guess, promote Scotland on a plate.
Well, let's talk about that because you mentioned that previously. Tell me, what is Scotland on a plate? What are you serving up, and why?
Well, we were serving the best lobster, the best Scottish meat you could find, the best Scottish ingredients, and again, all traditional Scottish dishes. So
okay, well, tell me something. I mean, lobster and meat, that's traditional a lot of places.
Yes, yeah.
What are specialty Scottish dishes that I wouldn't know about or I haven't experienced?
Yeah, so even things from some of their soups. So they're really old, not saying the older soups, but I mean, we would have taken an older soup and converted it into a really fancy bowl of modern type soup using old traditional. So things like Cullen skink, which is a smoked haddock. So you think Cullen skink, what does that sound like? Not great.
Sounds terrible.
It does. But basically it's a beautiful light based soup flavoured with smoked haddock and potato and leek blended.
So haddock is a fish?
Haddock is a fish, yes. And then you then have chunks of, we actually made smoked haddock raviolis, went in there along with a poached egg. I mean, it was all fancy. But
sounds tasty.
Yeah, but so when you look at it from a basis of it doesn't sound great initially, but when you eat it, it's pretty nice, you know. So these are the kinds of things that we've done right through from the beef. We've done a lot of great, traditional whiskey flavoured sauces, these kinds of things. And of course, Moscow, Russia, they love their whiskey, they love their alcohol, their vodka in particular. And them kinds of things, it's right up their alleyway. So if they know they're going to get that in Scotland, along with the shooting, the gaming, the fishing, that type of, them types of activities, really think we need to get to Scotland because we're missing out. Yeah. So that was the idea on both occasions, was to promote and tap into that space, and ultimately, to grow that
relationship
revenue with because they see it as a huge opportunity. I mean, and I'm sure today there will be a big part of their customers would be Russia. That kind of high-end Russians that come in with loads of excess money.
Talk to me about Scottish desserts, because I've got a sweet tooth.
Yes.
What do you serve if I've never had a Scottish dessert? What are you giving me? Come on, give me top two, actually.
Yeah, I think there's a couple of really good desserts over there. I mean, I know Pavlova allegedly came from Australia, but they do.
Whoa! Hold on a sec. Let's back the chat. It actually came from New Zealand.
Is that right? Well,
it is.
I knew that, but I just thought I'd throw it out there.
Of course, an Australian would have told you that. Yeah, it would start in New Zealand. I mean, all our viewers and listeners, you can debate it all you fucking want.
Yeah. Yes.
Actually, my mum started it.
Is that right?
It was my family started it back in 2002.
Yes.
No, it was earlier than that, obviously.
Yeah,
Edit that out, Mav, because we're going to get some complaints. Seriously, mark that out. I've got to get that date wrong. It was actually 1776.
But there's one in particular called Ekel Faken Tart. And how does that sound? Like Ekel Faken Tart? I mean,
Ekel Faken. It sounds...
and you can see what they're trying to say there, only it sounds a little bit different. And again, this is like a berry type, old style pastry casing, berry step with whiskey, with oats in there and eggs. So it's almost set like a little bit, you can imagine a quiche.
Yeah.
Only a taste of berries, sugar, whiskey, and then it's usually served then with either like a fresh ice cream or even a clot of cream or something like that. So it's a bit of a heart attack on a plate, but that's a really traditional. So, and again, you won't get them types of dishes much around there in Scotland now. People make them perhaps in the country or maybe at home, but they're the kinds of things that we focused on, them kinds of things, bringing real Scotland, really good ingredients, good dishes, because, I mean, this is news to them regardless. They don't know nothing anyway, so let's bring it real Scotland. So that was the goal. And then we modernised it from there and did all your usual fancy garnishes and spreels and tweels and all these kinds of things on there to make it look, because we eat with our eyes, right? So we want to have it looking really good as well. So if it looks good and it eats good, you've got them.
Awesome. Yeah. That sounds amazing. I'm hungry. What would be your top two meals? And I'm going top two because I know it's hard to go to just get one.
Yeah.
What in your history, in your life, tell me the top two meals that you've had, the best meals in your life.
I think I'm quite simple when it comes to that, and my wife does a really great chicken cave, and I don't know if...
I hope
and
your
again,
wife is listening to this.
Yeah, well, she might be, maybe not. But she, again, I bring it back because I've had a lot of different types of foods, and I bring it back to what I really enjoy to eat, and with really good quality mashed potato, chicken cave, and a few other garnishes for me, and a beer is what it's all about. I think that I love that more than anything else. I mean, lobster is great, lobster thermidor, all these kinds of things, Chateaubriand, fillet steak, all these kinds of things are all great. Don't get me wrong, I love that. But I think if that was the last meal I had, I'd probably have the chicken cave.
Wow.
Yeah.
Easy to please, aren't you?
Yeah, but it's a winner every time, and it was done good. I think it's a classic.
Oh, you just scored some points with your wife there.
She does a good job there.
That's amazing. Because you said she was so you met her in Scotland.
Yes. Yeah.
She was working at the same resort.
She was. Yeah.
Was she a chef?
No, she was front of house.
Front of house.
Yeah.
Yep.
So I bumped into her.
So very good looking.
Yes,
front
she
of
is.
house.
Yeah, yes. And you can imagine a lot of. I mean, back then it was. A huge resort. I think they had about 800 staff in total. So it was a massive resort. But again, with different departments, different areas, a lot of cross training, and people might have been shared around different restaurants to work because they might have been busy, whatever. But that's where I met her there, and yeah, we seemed.
It was a love at first sight.
It kind of was actually.
Yeah?
It kind of was. It was. Yeah.
What did she think about it?
Yeah, she was. I think. I was just being the usual person behind the pass, speaking. I think she actually came over to work in our restaurant that night for a little while to help out. It was a busy night. We were staffed down, and she came over, and maybe straight away she might have caught my attention. I think it might have been Valentine's night actually, and for some reason we made these little chocolates or these little kind of petit four type things, and just as she was leaving, I passed her over a couple of chocolates. Said, "Oh, that's for you. You just keep them yourself." And I think that was a bit of a gentle message then.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
We might be on here. So,
and were you?
So, and she brings that up from time to time, and I remember that well. And I was in. So from there, it kind of was a bit of a slow burner, and but yeah, it worked out. So we've been together ever since.
Oh, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Hey, can you give me the name of that resort? Mav, I want to Google this resort. It's still there, yeah?
Yeah, 100%, yeah. It's called...
Because it sounds amazing. I want to have a look, see if you got some pictures of it.
Yeah, it's called the Glen Eagles Resort.
Glen Eagle.
Yeah, Glen Eagles.
Eagles.
Yeah.
You got that? In Scotland.
Scotland, Perthshire.
You've got a nice photo up there of you in your running gear. Was that 2 Bays trail run?
That is that, yes. Yeah.
We'll get to that later.
Yeah.
Is that it?
That's the one, yeah.
Give me some photos. Look at those photos, Mav. Oh, look at it. It's a big...
That's the one, yeah.
It's a big... So those people that are just listening, it's like a big English castle or a Scottish castle.
It's a beast. It initially was built for, don't quote me on this, but I think it was built for almost like for the end of the World War II, where people, almost like a hospital, and then from that then it was converted into a hotel, and then obviously from that then it just grew on.
That one there, Mav. Yeah, that one. Bring that up big. It's a look at the grounds.
Yeah, set on 850 acres. So
Wow.
It's a massive beast.
Oh, that's not a very big photo,
It's she.
isn't it?
That's all right.
Oh,
That'll give you a bit of an idea.
wow. So you got the big entrance there.
Yep.
So explain, so that, as you say, because you say it looks like an old hospital.
Well, it was built for that initially, yes. But from that then, they've, so you can see there, the shape, it's designed perfectly, I think, for how that resort works. And you can see in the left-hand side, that's a new wing they built on, actually just before I started back in 2009.
There, on the right-hand side.
Yeah, just there. So that's a new wing. That houses, I think it's maybe got 190 rooms in there, maybe 200 rooms in there. But the main rooms for the hotel, obviously different price points. I think the most expensive room was called the Royal Loch Nugar. Very, very, very hard to get a room in that. And most of them rooms would be up on £2,500 a night, £3,000 a night.
So you're talking $5,000 a night.
It's expensive, and your clientele back then, whenever I was there, was people like John Travolta, the Beckhams, a lot of big football players, Eddie Irvine, them types of people, with a lot of excess money. These are the kinds of people who were using this here. So it's a huge beast of a machine.
So you've met more than just the Queen. Is that
Yeah,
what you're saying? Rock stars and the Beckhams.
A lot of people have come through this here, but that's their normal clientele. I think they go there because they know it's quite exclusive, and they don't get hassled. They don't get anything. They go there, and it's in where it is in Perthshire. It's tucked away in the countryside, and obviously got the helipads behind there. You can fly in and drop in, and people don't know you're there, so they kind of get away from the whole hustle and bustle, whether it's London or wherever it is, and they get up there, and even if you pass them in the corridor, nobody looks at you or speaks to you or chases you for autographs. But it's obviously got a huge retail space in there. It's got a big country club in there. You can see the very front there, which is almost like the conservatory.
Yes,
that was the main meeting room for the G8 summit. The main meeting room.
Awesome.
So that's spilled out into the gardens then as well.
Can you go back out, Matt, and see if there's any more? This is an amazing establishment. Unbelievable. Now, how did you get the job there?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I actually went over with I guess my girlfriend then, a lot younger, of course, and she was doing her year kind of study or year out kind of thing then. So I went over with her because I had the opportunity. And while she was over doing,
is that the front room there?
Yes.
To the left,
yeah,
Matt. The next one over, that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
open that one up.
Yeah.
So that's like an observatory at the front of the front of the property.
So that's a big space. It doesn't look as big, but it's actually massively big. I mean, that could seat. We've done weddings in there for like maybe 300. So
it is. That's an amazing space.
But it gives you a great panoramic view around. You see the mountains and a lot of the hills and and the countryside, and the backdrop is amazing as well. So that room is a very used a lot. But they've got a main ball. They've got about maybe 10 different huge function rooms. And they've all got their own different style. Whether it's the grand ballroom, very different from this room, or the conservatory like this one, they've all got their different story. It depends, I guess, what the theme is or what the event.
And there's always something going on there.
There's never a dull moment in this place. This place never goes. The stoves never go cold in that place.
Is that right?
It never stops. Never stops. So.
How many babies you reckon have been conceived in that joint by the staff?
Yes. Well, they had staff accommodation, which was lucky. I think there was 300 staff accommodation rooms. I was a short time there in the staff accommodation. So, and we just luckily there's a little village called Auchterarder. Pronounce that.
Auchterarder.
Yeah. Auchterarder is the local little village to where that is, and of course they do quite well. The spill off from Glen Eagles.
Oh, I bet you they do.
Yeah, so really, really, really great for that local kind of community, and so I ended up moving out and we rented. And there was a few of us, and which was a great. That's another story, but we had a great party house down there, which was good. So, but I did a short term in the accommodation then, and then we moved out from that.
That's amazing. Did you finish the story about how you got there? You said with your girlfriend?
Yes, so I had the girlfriend at the time, and we went over there together, and then, like anything, young, and she was young, and I was young as well, and listen, we just kind of drifted apart, different things. With work, I think the pressure of work, the hours I was doing, we just didn't really see each other, and it was just easier to
I get it,
move
mate.
on.
I get it. As you say, you're young.
Short. That's right.
You want to experience things.
That's right.
Right, so if anybody's listening to this, Google, was it Glen Eagles?
Yeah.
Have a look at it, and it's an amazing establishment. This podcast is brought to you by Holy Shirt Australia. Holy Shirt Australia are 100% online. They're Australia's largest no minimum custom print and embroidery company. All their services are completed in-house, and they can deliver all orders promptly and professionally. They like to keep it simple and straightforward, so they offer cool stuff that can be custom printed or embroidered to your liking. They have an easy-to-use online designer to build your custom apparel from the comfort of your home or office. They offer pricing that reflects your individual order, and remember, they are no minimum on all their products. They deliver what the customer expects when they expect it. They've got over 1,500 products ready for you to custom print or embroider today, right now. So head to holyshirt.com.au for all your custom clothing requirements. Right, back into it. Immigrant, you're an immigrant just like me.
I am, yes.
How long have you been in Australia?
I'll be, 2011, so I'll be 13 years coming in September. 13 years.
Wow. I'm 23 3, I think.
Does it feel like yesterday?
I'm going to be honest. No,
Okay.
no. I have vivid memories about the decision made to leave New Zealand, and I always say it was the best decision I ever made.
Yeah.
You know, like you, it's great to go home. It's great to see your family, but I outgrew New Zealand.
Yeah.
And yeah, the best thing I ever did was move over here. Haven't looked back.
Yeah. Same.
Yeah.
For sure.
So what was the decision or the discussion? Because obviously you'd been with. Were you married at that? You were married.
I got married. Funny, our wedding anniversary was yesterday, so 18 years married yesterday.
Wow! Congratulations.
Yeah, so that's ironic, but yeah.
You get less for murder, eh? You realise that?
I know. She'd be out by now.
Yeah, you'd be on the other side.
Yeah, but yeah, interesting because so 2006 we got married and then we moved kind of back home. We decided to move back home to Northern Ireland. We had no kids then, and we were very lucky. We had a little bit of land on my grandparents' land, their initial land, which belonged to my dad. My brother had, so I was able to get a little bit of land there, and we always wanted to, through conversation, to build our own house. We always wanted to do something to build it, to have our own kind of bricks and mortar, because over in Scotland we rented, and we did buy the last house which we sold, and then that funded, I guess, the project for Ireland. So when we moved back in 2006, then again I was hitting the ground running. I moved into a different resort which was brand new. That I'm not too sure if you know Rory McIlroy, the golfer.
Yep.
He was the pro golfer at this new resort that was built in Northern Ireland. It was deemed to be the bee's knees. I mean, nothing to what Gleneagles was, but still a very good new resort. And they were going through that whole kind of change and getting things organised. So I went in there as the executive sous chef then, and small team. And again, their goal then was to put together, functions, weddings. It was predominantly a wedding hotel because they had some great views there. So we ended up then building the house in 2008, and that was a little bit of the economic downturn in Ireland back then was hard. I guess they called it a bit of a credit crunch time back then. Nothing was easy, but we're lucky that we were in a position where we sold the house in Scotland we had prior, and we started to build the house then where we were. But with my wife being initially from Dundee.
What's your wife's name, by the way?
Marilyn, as in Marilyn Monroe. She reminds me of that. Yeah.
Shout out to her.
She does. But so she was born and reared in Dundee, and so when we then decided then to move back to Ireland, then we built this house, which was a great experience. We built it together, as in we got somebody to build it, but just the whole journey of that, which is a bit of a roller coaster as well. And then of course the kids came along. First one was in September, and then the next one then was 15 months after, so quite close together. But then just the grind of the work was just constant. It was never getting away from that. As I was saying earlier, it just you live or you breathe it, and if you don't, you just fall so far behind. You can't keep up with it, and if you stand still, you move backwards. So you have to keep with the trend the whole time. And over there was no different. Staffing was an issue. The resort was obviously new. They wanted to make a big impression for the local area, and so on and so on. And there was a huge amount of money spent in this place, so it had to be successful. I think it's been recently changed hands a couple of times now since then, but or different things has happened from it. But then it got to the stage then where we just thought that, listen, it's not working, And my wife coming from Dundee, she lived in before we came over, she probably lived 2 years in Edinburgh, which I really enjoyed as a city, lovely city, and I spent a fair bit of time with my days off over there with her, and we loved the hustle, the bustle around the city. But to move then from that into the country, you can imagine, was a massive shock for her. Even when the snow came, it was like nothing moved. You were snowed in, you couldn't get out, and where we lived actually was quite wee bit more in the country roads, they were never cleared, they were never salted, only even tractors could barely get up them. So, I mean, we had snow halfway up the door sometimes, in the winter time. So she, I think, really struggled with that. I was used to that because I did really like the snow and I like the rain as well. I enjoy that cold weather. I'm just used to it. But for her, I think it was more the isolation of it. And I mean, our closest neighbour might have been a mile away or half a mile away, so we now had people around us, and she was used to having people around, or jumping on a bus or a tram or wherever it was, getting around was really easy. So very, very different. But I'm not too sure if you ever know of a program called Wanted Down Under. I'm not too sure if you ever heard of that. Maybe it's not televised over here, but back then it was a big thing, and this was 2000 and.
Can you Google that, mate?
Yeah,
Wanted Down Under.
Wanted Down Under. And
so it's an Aussie program.
Yes.
And the premise is that they're trying to entice you to come down under.
That's right, because Australia wants you.
What year was that?
Well, that would have been 2000 and I'm going to say 2010.
Oh, there you go. I actually do recognise. Is there a synopsis on that, Matt?
2010, I think.
The series in which British families are given a look. Given a look at life in Australia ahead of a possible migration. Okay, so they're getting people down there, and then saying this is what it's all about. Yeah, you should move, but it's not people that have moved there.
No. So and people might go through. Maybe they might find work, so maybe the company might sponsor them or move their whole family, or they might maybe relocate them and pay for that, depending on the job it is. But it also depends, I guess, on the need for different types of skills and different industries required. So
it actually says down there, families living in the United Kingdom are given a week's glimpse into establishing their lives in Australia or New Zealand before they decide to migrate to either of the locations.
Yeah.
So did you think about New Zealand?
We didn't. We
didn't even enter in the conversation?
Well, yeah, it never came up, ironically, which to me it wouldn't have. I was quite happy to. Well, actually, long story short, I came home from work one day after another 17-hour, 16-hour shift, and my wife was there, and she said, "Listen, I've been having to think about how would you feel about moving to Australia." And going, sign me up. I mean, I had a horrendous day, or something was happened, or maybe whatever. It was a busy day. Yeah. Let's open that conversation because I like the sound of that straight away. And that basically, in a nutshell, that's where it kind of originated from, was that there was no. Normally, I'm quite a methodical thinker. I'll think things through and say, "Oh, I don't know about that," or I'll look at maybe sometimes back then I would have looked at more of the negative things. Oh, what if this was wrong? What if this was wrong? Blah blah blah. We've got safety here. We've got the house we've built. Everything's good here. But for me, it was, I sensed that she wasn't happy. She wasn't enjoying the environment of the country. It's not something she was used to, albeit she was putting on a great, brave face. I just thought to myself, this could be good for us and our kids, and the opportunities and the weather and the outdoor life. It was right up something that we liked. I mean, when you watch a bit of it, it really paints a good picture of what Australia is. It's really
of course
great.
It does.
Yeah, so of course they're promoting that, and they want them skills to go over here, So that was the idea, and that's where it started off with. And basically from that, once I kind of said, yeah, listen, that'd be great, we hit momentum straight away, and I think it might have been the next week or so we got in touch with a company that, I guess that's what they do, so they support families if you're relocating and so on. So we had, obviously at that stage, we had our 2 kids then, 2 boys. And
how old were they?
Well, when we come over, our oldest would have been 3 and our youngest would have been 1.5. So there's 15 months between them. My wife then was at home with that. She was studying still part-time with being a stay-at-home mum. I was working full-time, so away a lot of the time. So it just had a lot of challenges. It just wasn't easy. And then the whole complexity of where we lived and the weather and it was just hard. I mean, it sounded great, but again, as I said, behind the romance, the reality is it's tough, And yes, I was really lucky because, of course, I had my parents didn't live that far away from over the mountain down to where their village was. I had my brothers there as well. So that side was really great, being able to spend time with them and spend time with their kids when they were younger, when our boys were young as well. But I just knew there was a wanting to go and do something more. I just knew long term, could I see myself being here doing this? I just knew there had to be something maybe a little bit more, maybe more exciting or more challenging. And that's whenever that conversation come up, sign me up. Well, let's have a look at this.
Well, if you look at what you'd done prior and the life that you lived, it sort of seemed that it was inevitable that something was going to happen.
That's right.
And as you say, it's great having your family on your doorstep. But if you're not happy,
Yeah,
You've got to make some changes.
that's right.
You didn't entertain New Zealand at all.
Wasn't
It
ever
never
mentioned.
came in the conversation.
Yeah, for strange, it
Was
was
that
never
because
mentioned.
is that because your wife didn't do her research?
Well, maybe not. I think the wanted down under was predominantly around, at the end, it was all around Australia, so different parts of Australia. The reason why we picked Melbourne was, I guess, it suits our background, or I guess our weather patterns more here in Melbourne, rather than, I think I would have died if I had went to Cairns or Queensland. I probably wouldn't have struggled with the heat.
Brisbane. Oh,
Yeah, so
terrible.
I think that was one of the reasons why we thought, well, if we do go, it's going to have to be Melbourne, because at least they've got some form of seasons, or we'll have a cooler time of the year, so we'll have a bit of a break. But when we arrived actually in September back then, I genuinely thought I was going to die, and we had no air conditioning.
Oh, was it hot?
Nothing.
Was it?
Oh, well, I think it was 22 or 23. For me, that was hot. Yeah. Little did I know what we were getting into. I mean, it was up from there.
Oh.
But where we rented had a tin. I think it had a tin roof. It was like this thing was like a sauna. It was just there was no aircon. There wasn't even a fan in the place.
Oh fuck!
It was just unbelievable. But yeah, so from that then the motion happened. We contacted this company. They were really good. Of course, that comes at a cost. We had to get all that done. And back then there was a whole thing of the change of government. Rudd was in, or I think it was Gillard or Rudd, and they chopped and changed for a minute or so, whatever it was. Every day that was changing.
Yeah.
And then from that then I guess the skills required changed based on the Prime Minister that was in charge then at the time.
So the visa. So you're obviously coming over on a worker's visa. As chef,
Yep.
As a chef, did you qualify automatically for entry?
Yeah, well, initially no, and that was the bit when we touched base with the company. Said, well, listen, you're chefing isn't on the I guess on the critical needed level.
But barbers and hairstylists
Yeah,
are.
I'm not too sure what was.
That's
I was
insane,
thinking, well, that's
isn't
fair
it?
enough. Well, keep us on the list. When they do, get in touch. Yeah.
Yeah.
But then I think whatever happened then overnight, Gillard fell out or something happened, or so whoever the other one might have been Kevin Rudd. He was in charge then. Suddenly, Chef was back in.
Well, Kevin 211. That's got a ring to it.
Yeah.
I think I remember that.
So I think it was then whenever that happened. So we got a phone call the week after thinking, hold on, you're not going to believe this, but chefs are now needed. Things have changed over in Australia, and listen, we can get this going pretty quick. I'm thinking, geez, what?
It's amazing how it can
how quick
change
are we looking here?
overnight. Well, how can it change?
Couple of months.
It's insane, isn't it? It's like 1 month we need them, or we don't need them, and the next month
That's right.
we don't.
That's right.
Yeah.
So that's how it kind of came, and to be honest, I hadn't told my even parents at all that I was interested. I didn't want to rock the boat or any of that. I think my mum was especially my mum was enjoying having us from Scotland over there, and our kids were young, so that was really great. So I didn't want to. I was always nervous, thinking, how am I going to tell this? This is going to be. I mean, I've only arrived in the country, I built this house, and I'm thinking of heading over the other side of the world. Not very convenient. How selfish. But
How'd that conversation go?
it went okay. I think there was a few tears from her end, which is understandable for sure. But again, back then I think we had Skype, it was called then, or some of them types of. So listen, we have Skype. We'll be able to send letters over to us. We'll work it out. We'll be back over, sure enough.
Yeah.
But it was okay. But there was no doubt she was obviously upset. And
Well, as a grandmother, you can understand why, can't you?
yeah, and for me, it was, I guess, when I think about it now, it did look on my end. I mean, I've often thought about it, being selfish, because I've got, obviously I've got close brothers back over there, and I always thought about the opportunity of our kids growing up with their kids and having that real family bond, which is great for cousins to hang out and do that, and they don't have that now. Which is, I guess, that's the sacrifice from that, and that's the other side of the coin. So you have to go. If you weigh up the pros and cons, there's good and there's bad, but that's one of the downsides to it. But we're still close with that. We speak with them off and on now with Messenger and different things, so they still have a relationship. And kids now, they've got great ways of communicating and so on and so on. But so once things moved fast and that changed, we got a phone call. Before you know it, we're doing medicals through the government. Things is progressing fast. Thinking we have to get this house sold. Before you know it, we were selling stuff in the house, and then we told my parents. So I think in the space of maybe 3 or 4 months after that, we were gone.
That's quick.
I know, very quick.
Did you sell the house before you went?
We didn't. We rented that. And I'm really grateful to this day. But I'm lucky. I've got a great brother back there who was very helpful, really great at doing lots of, and that's his world. He knows the ins and outs of all these things. he works as a I guess as a planner back home for the government, and does lots of works on big projects. So that's his world.
What's your brother's name?
Jonathan.
Shout out to Jonathan.
Yeah, so he was really great at supporting with that, and to be honest, I would have been lost at the time because we were kind of coddling. We've got to go, right? We're still having, and back then with the economic downturn, wasn't a great time to sell a house. And then, of course, typical our luck, which I always say the luck of the Irish, Brexit happened, and then that put a whole catapult between the exchange rates. So the pound was quite valuable, suddenly become not as valuable because Brexit was up in the air and people were wanting to change all that. So it was an interesting time of our life, but we had to go because we committed to that. And we literally came over here with 6 suitcases, not knowing one person. My wife, 2 kids with 6 suitcases, and that's the way we came. And luckily we had a person to rent our house, who ironically, that person who rented the house for 3 years ended up buying the house, which was really happy to hear as well, because he made it into his home initially, and then he was lucky enough to be in a position then to be able to buy it afterwards, which worked out good for them also.
Did you land here and go, what the fuck have we done?
Yeah. Well, we landed, I'm not joking, it was the longest flight without knowing anybody here and at all. And we were lucky my wife was able to contact a person through, she had done a little bit of networking with a group that she had arrived. She had obviously researched. We moved initially to Mornington, which we just thought that area there was great, a great middle ground. The schools were good, lots of areas down around the Mornington Peninsula as a chef.
Shit, you could have done a lot worse. You could have gone north of the city. Fuck.
Yeah, so we ended up with there, which was really great. So we were there for a little while, but so we were lucky then. But I had a job already set before I arrived, so I was able to move into a head chef role in one of the wineries down the Mornington Peninsula. So luckily they had accommodation there.
Awesome. Which one?
A place called the Linden Dairy up in Red Hill.
Yep. It's a gorgeous part of the world, isn't it?
Beautiful area, and for me that whole environment is very different, you know. I mean, very different from, you can imagine, Glen Eagles or any of them kind of areas out in the country, out in the wild, cockatoos running around and kangaroos bouncing around your feet. I mean, it's a different world. But so luckily we were able to have accommodation there, and then we got set up. We stayed there for 2 weeks or so, and then we found our first place to rent, and then that's we kind of started from there, and we built up slowly from there onwards. So
was there any time that you sat down with your wife and had second? Did you ever second guess your decision?
No, we've never done that, and I think that's something we've never done. We only ever seen it as a positive opportunity for us and the kids for the future, and you know, the prospects of employment for them and us, and the weather, the outdoor. This was everything that we wanted, stuff that we just weren't getting back home. I mean, the weather was crap back there the whole time. I mean, you could plan nothing, the weather. And yes, I mean, you work around it for sure, but here you can put a little bit of planning into what you want to do tomorrow, the next day. You roughly know you're going to get, the weather's going to be either poor, you'll know, or if it's going to be not bad, you can do something. But back then the weather was pretty miserable a lot of the time of the year. So based on that, it just seemed to cram you in the house a lot. And we were always generally fairly outdoor people, like to get out and about and doing things. But especially when the kids are young, it was just hard, especially for my wife. So that was one of the main reasons for that, was to get out and just have a new adventure. When the kids were young, now's the time when they're young like this. And if we don't go now, we probably won't go. So that's what kind of spurred us on. Influenced by Wanted Down Under.
Oh, good stuff.
Yeah.
They did their job.
They did.
But as you say, the good thing about arriving at a new place, a new country, is that you get to experience all these places and things that you've never experienced before.
That's right.
And it's a constant adventure. It's like, okay, we're gonna work and do what we need to do, and then the weekend it's like, where are we gonna go? It's like picking a spot on the map. I remember when I got here in 2006. I used to buy stuff off Gumtree back then, and it was like, where am I buying it? Oh, it's over the other side of Victoria, or it's the other side of the city. Great, I'm in. Let's buy it and let's jump in a car and go on an adventure. Yep. And that was how we got, because back then it was all malware. It was all the maps in the books, which you can't even understand the concept today. Yep. You know, and it was those. I remember those adventures fondly. You know, just going to buy a couch or a table, and also we had some friends. We had a friend, Glenn, on the podcast. He's an immigrant from New Zealand that has just come over and is living in Australia now.
Yes.
He was talking about the roadside trash. He was talking about the
Hard rubbish.
hard rubbish,
Yeah,
the
yeah.
free stuff that's just stacked up on the
Yep.
on the what do they call it, the
Nature strip.
nature strip.
Yeah, yeah.
It's insane. It's just it's like it's just
Gold. It's gold to
isn't
some
it?
people. Yeah,
It is.
A lot of people do well from that, I think. Yeah.
Well, it's a great opportunity for people like
right.
that to be able to pick some stuff up and
100%.
and recycle, reuse.
Yep.
Which is ultimately what you want to do instead of putting it
That's right.
in a landfill.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Yep. Yeah.
Great memories.
They are good. They were good. And again, it's like when we look back, and that's why I said our time has went pretty fast from the 11 years. I mean, okay, it might not seem like yesterday, but has the time flown? It definitely has. Why? We've been just super busy. You know, if it's not kids, it's work or different things, or it's just like, it just seems like maybe a year or two ago from we came, but we've just achieved so much. We've learned so much. We've just grown into this kind of, I guess, environment now, which is like home. I think for me, there'll always be home, which will be back there, and I always call that my home. But this is where I live now, and you know, will I ever go back there to live? Maybe in the future when we get older. But at this stage, where you know we really enjoy it here, and where we are, you know, here, as you know, we're close to everything. We're close to, you know, the mountain areas. We've got beautiful beaches. We've got everything. We're lucky here, you know,
Yes.
which is great.
Very, very lucky. So what's the best thing that's happened to you and your wife since you landed in Australia? Is there an experience that you've had where you've gone, we're in the lucky country now?
Yeah, I think there's just been having the ability to be able to. So my wife's went through. She's done a degree. She's studied more, where that was with kids that had to get paused and different things, and moving over here. So being able to have that and be able to work while you study and be able to probably earn well while you work gives you that opportunity of, I guess, how you want to live over here. And you know, and again, the same with myself. I mean, chefing over here is you know, if you're in the right environment and you're in the right place, you can do pretty well, you know, based on the fact that, okay, you might have to work some unusual hours and some longer hours now and again, but come winter time, certainly down the peninsula, back 6-7 years ago, it was a bit of a ghost town down then. With the new road now in the peninsula, I think that's opened up that now to be almost, people now commute to the city back and forward now, or I guess most people even work from home now with the way things are. But back then, the Mornington Peninsula was quieter then, where now it's busy all the time. So I think them venues do really well even over winter time. But winter was a quiet time of the year. People took holidays. You might have had one chef in an environment for the day, where now they're busy all the time, which is great for the you know for the economy there, and but also great for the wineries themselves. I mean, there's some great and you know there's some great business, as you probably know, down there as well. You know.
Or as you were saying, back in the day, it was quiet, but with the amount of population growth that we've had,
That's right.
you know, going down there, there's traffic jams. I mean, there is a new freeway, but then it goes into a 2-lane,
That's right.
you know, a single lane each way, and at certain times of the year, it's just absolutely crazy. We'll actually avoid going down there at certain points because you know it's just going to be you know, bumper to bumper traffic. But great for all those businesses. We've got all those wineries, we've got all those producers, gin. You've just got anything and everything down there. They've got the hot pools down there.
Yep.
And yeah, it's getting exclusive and expensive, which is it's just par for the course.
That's right.
You know. But great spot. I mean, you could have, as I said, you could have landed anywhere in Melbourne. You know?
We could have went anywhere. That's right.
Yeah.
But I think, in fairness to her, she did her due diligence pretty well, and she was
She-
lucky that
yes.
she was in that group, I guess, of being able to ask the right questions and get some good answers, and then based on that kind of forum chat that she had with them people back then, which I think she would have used Facebook, whatever it was back then, which would have been quite new, or I guess new to us. It was a great way then of being able to find, I guess, the you know the better areas to live, and then from that, obviously, that's where we found.
Yeah, we definitely lucked out, didn't you?
We did. We done well. Yeah.
Hey, talking about work, you're not a chef anymore.
Not anymore.
So you did 25 years.
That's right.
That's a good stint.
It's long enough, yes.
Yes. Well, as you say, there's some long hours. So talk to me about hospitality night, because hospo night, for those who are listening, is a night of the week where all the people in hospitality go out and let their hair down.
That's right.
Now it's generally a Monday, isn't it?
Yeah, Monday or Tuesday, but I think traditionally Monday would be the heavier night. Tuesday might just be the top up.
Yeah. Do you miss hospo night?
I'll be honest, I didn't get involved too much with it, but listen, I've represented myself on a few occasions for sure, but there were some good nights out there, and they have that in the UK as well. It's funny just because Monday just seems to be the quieter night for.
Well, it makes sense, doesn't it? It makes perfect sense.
But I think if you're working long hours, I couldn't back then. Sometimes I couldn't think of nothing worse than out my day off. I just wanted to sleep or just rest because I was just so exhausted from doing 9 days or 10 days in a row, and doing 16, 17 hours. Some of them shifts were long, So the last thing you want to do on a Monday is go mad, and you just haven't the energy.
Well, that was the case back then. Is that the case now with all these employment laws and hours worked and stuff?
Yeah.
Is that still the same in the hospitality? Because we were on the way to work this morning, and they had some stat about a percentage of the workforce were looking at quitting their jobs within the next 3 days because of burnout.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, it's no different when you look at, there's many industries, as you know, that, burnout's huge. But if I look at hospitality, it's very, very difficult. It's very difficult nowadays to encourage people to come into that industry. Because if you tell somebody, listen, you're not going to have a weekend off, you're not going to be able to spend time with your friend, you're going to have to work all the time, it doesn't sound very appealing. It doesn't matter what you're doing, you want to have a little bit of freedom, especially if you're 16, 17, 18 years of age, when you're young, when you want to have fun and you want to have here and you want to go out on Saturday nights. That's when that business needs you most. It's not the Mondays and Tuesdays and Wednesdays, it's this Fridays, Saturdays, Sundays.
Do you think people are getting soft?
Yeah, it's no different from the UK. It's just, I think it's got harder.
Yeah, but from what you know, and you're 50, you've been in the workforce for 30-something years plus. Do you see this new generation being soft? Are they soft?
I don't want to use the word soft. I think they're probably more smarter. I think because at the end of the day, if you can earn just as much money by doing something that's a lot easier and giving you the time off, why would you not explore that? And I think that's being clever about using your time wisely. Because don't get me wrong, it's great to go and learn how to cook, but I think cooking whenever I was 17 then, and cooking nowadays is a very different world, and I think you got to be very mindful of how you work and speak with people and encourage and motivate and train people. Where back then, it was you had to have very thick skin back then.
Was the Wild West, wasn't it? I mean, we call it the Wild West,
yes.
But it was what we grew up with.
That's right.
The diversity and all this stuff that needs to factor in to you and your attitude in the work environment these days.
Yeah.
Once again, it's par for the course. But it was not there when we were doing our apprenticeships. When we were young.
Yeah, it's a different world then. But I think it's a great way of learning. From a military point of view, you actually learn some great skills about showing up on time, presenting yourself well, making sure you're cleanly shaved. This was the kind of the code of conduct in Gleneagles. You just couldn't rock up with long hair or beard. You had to actually present yourself well. You had to have whites were cleaned and ironed. It was like and we were lucky that we had a laundry there that did all that for us. But you just couldn't. They wouldn't accept low standards, where I think they're great things to have. Where nowadays, I think you could walk around with a bolt in your head, and where back then you couldn't have done that. You weren't allowed.
Well, rings in your nose and stuff hanging out.
And I'm not saying that's wrong, but I'm just saying back then it's a very different world. So it's, again, you can't, because obviously now it's very hard to encourage people into that industry, I think. And I think, people then become chefs within a month and a half. They've learned it all and they know it all. I'm out of this, I'm done, I'm a chef. I've been chefing for a year, I know it all. I think it takes a little bit longer than that. So to really understand the grips of what it is.
Okay,
but
sorry to cut you off. I'll give you one final question about chefing, and then we can move on.
Yes.
Give me your honest opinion about these cooking shows, MasterChef, etc., etc.
Yep.
Are they good or bad?
I think they're great.
In your opinion?
In my opinion, I don't like them personally. I wouldn't sit down and watch them at all. Even the ones around Alexa Hell's Kitchen and Gordon Ramsay ones, I don't find that entertaining at all. Just because for me, it's not really what the industry is all about.
Well, it's pumped. The wheels are pumped up for telly. What about MasterChef? I mean, we all know MasterChef.
Yeah, I'm not into it either. I just think it's for me. It's just not one for me. I cringe watching it. I cringe what they're doing.
Why?
It's just too. I don't want to use the word soft, but it's fake and it's just not right. It's not really. And I get the idea. You're given a bunch of ingredients, make the best you can go, see how you go with it. I mean, I seen someone on TV the other night, and somebody was putting fish with raspberries. And I was thinking, nowadays anything can go. Really, by the looks of things, where I come back to what the classics are, and maybe I'm just older school.
You are old school.
Yeah.
Yep. There's nothing wrong with that.
But there's not. But again, I really love modern food as well, and I love pushing into that space. But sometimes, there's got to be some form of limit to where you go with these things, and I'm not too sure if raspberries and fish go as well. But that's just my opinion. But when I see things, I gotta go. Nah, I'm out of here. I can't watch stuff like that. So I get it why they have it. It's a great show. I think it's been well viewed and all the rest. But for me, it's not something that I could sit and watch personally.
The only good thing to come out of that is they do a kids version, and that inspires kids.
That would be good. I could see the sense in that. That would be very good. Yeah, I could see if that gets kids in and gets them motivated and thinking about food and getting them involved. I think there's something good there, definitely.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, that's enough with chefing.
Yes.
What are we doing now?
Yes, different. I'm doing a different role completely. So I work for the Department of Justice and Community Safety, which is very different from chefing, but I do think that a lot of the skills from chefing is skills that I use on a day-to-day basis. So
how did you make that? How did you make that leap from chefing to the? Did you go straight into this role from a chef role?
Yes. So I just wanted to get out. It took me a while to get in. It's not a straightforward process, but it's I guess I just had enough as well with the hours, similar to what I was feeling over there. And I'm asking myself the question, listen, I've jumped from the pan back into the frying, the pot to the pan here. Have I really made that change that I committed to coming over here, that trying to find a work-life balance, trying to find more time with the kids and family and do things? I probably wasn't getting that enough as I wanted to, So
how many years did it take? So you got here 2011? So how long have you been in your new role?
I've been there for probably, I'm going to say 5.5 years.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, so I enjoy it. It's a good role. We work with many different types of the operation, right through from working with different people, helping them complete their orders, and for me, I find that very rewarding. Engaging with people, supporting people, motivating people, encouraging people, all these kinds of things, which I think are great traits that I've had in the past, but also at the same time being very mindful, and more importantly, I think being empathetic with people as well, engaging with them and getting them to see some great positive results out of that. So I think that's important.
So just so we understand, we're talking about people, males generally?
Both, yes.
Yep.
Both, yeah.
Male and female, that have come out of prison.
Sometimes, yes.
So they've been in prison and for a period of time, and you're helping them readjust and to civilian life to work on being a citizen again. Is that correct?
Yeah, in some occasions, not all occasions, because not everybody will go down that path. I mean, we have a very varied, different range come right through. So it could be something very, very small for why they're there, and so they might have a range of community work to achieve. So we would support them while they're doing that. So and helping them get their hours down. So I get the opportunity to work with different people right across different age groups, right through from 18 right up to maybe even 80. So but again, they're all trying to achieve their community work part of their order, and some people may have had them experiences in the past, but not everyone.
Okay, so if the percentage of people that are coming out of prison, are they have to, as you say, complete community order, community work. So community order is like explain a community order. Explain.
Well, there's different types of orders. So you might have a basic order which might have perhaps only hours only. Perhaps so you might have, let's say, 50, maybe 100 hours to achieve as in community work around different types of engagement, partnerships that we have right across across our region here.
Which entails what?
So right through from there could be graffiti removal. It could be working at schools,
volunteering
their time, perhaps maybe even them types of areas. So we work very closely with a whole range of different partnerships right across the board. So and then different partnerships will add value to the community in many different ways. So they could be right through from up shops, Vinnie's, Salvos. It could be working at cemeteries or men's sheds, or it could be working at perhaps food banks in them areas in the past we've done. So there's many different partnerships that we run with them, and again, this gives them the opportunity then to give back to the community in a sense, and that for a lot of people actually they find it very valuable and very rewarding in a sense that not only are they able to give back and use their time like that, but maybe learn new skills while they're there. And you can imagine some people might not have skills or might not have an upbringing perhaps like maybe we've had. So in a sense where they've tried then to engage in different ways, and I guess part of my role is to try and engage with them, work with them, and I guess have that pro-social role model as well, and try and work with them on that there. But we have some great conversations out there, but it's all about, of course we have compliance we have to manage and we'll look after, and depending where we are and what we're doing. But I find it a rewarding job. Yeah.
How big is the mental health aspect of the clients? Would I call them clients?
Yeah.
That you're working with. I mean, is that basically the top of the list on everybody's to do when they're trying to tick boxes to get back into civilization after being incarcerated?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess that is a big part of it for sure. And I think mental health is huge in general across the board, but you can imagine that plays a big part in it for sure. And some people may have other programs that may be doing alongside their community work. So that could be engaging in that area, that mental health program, or other types of courses or programs that would be enhancing that side of it for them, but also while they're completing their hours at the same time.
Who's funding all this?
Well,
is it government funded?
Yeah, government. Yeah. So
state government or
state. So Corrections Victoria. Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
What's the most rewarding part of your job?
Seeing people completing their hours and thanking them for their efforts and wishing them well for the future, I think is a great thing to. I think it's important to acknowledge people's efforts. Doesn't matter how big or small that was, because it's free of charge. I think there's nothing much free in this country. I've noticed from being here. So that's free, and I think it's also quite powerful as well to be able to acknowledge somebody's efforts and time, and more importantly, thank them for that. And I do that on a day-to-day basis. I think it's something that I encourage all of our staff members to do, because that could be the difference of somebody showing up next week or rocking up and saying, well, I'm going to give this a good crack. Why? Because I just know it's the right thing to do, and I had a chat with that fella there last week and he seems all right, so we're going to get this thing done.
I hate to be negative.
Yeah.
What's the failure rate? What's the reincarceration rate?
I'm unsure. It depends. Again, I don't, without going into too much, I probably don't want to be too specific on it, but I'm unsure of that answer, I think. But I mean, there would be a percentage there, but I'm unsure of that.
But the system's working.
Well, we can always make it better, like anything, and with COVID, we've changed dramatically of how we operate, and that has changed the space as well, which has been, I guess, good, but also at the same time has been challenging. Like any other industry, we've had to adapt to that, move around, and work things out. But I think it is helpful. It's absolutely changing people, and I think to have that as an alternative to perhaps going somewhere else, I think is a great alternative.
So what would you do differently if you could make some changes?
Me in charge, that's not good.
No.
You wouldn't. I don't know if we would change much. I mean, for me, it's what we do there. I think we offer a great programs, and we work with our partners out there, which is great. And the feedback we've had from, even for example, schools. The efforts that we do. You can imagine, bringing a group of people, 10, 15 people to school. You can imagine the impact bringing that to a public school on a Saturday. In the past, we turn the school upside down. We literally do, from inside to outside, to lots of projects we work on. And you can imagine some of the clients we come there, very highly skilled tradespeople, who've got some great skills. So tapping into that skills is a real benefit, and utilising their skills while you're there, we get some great outcomes. So there's a great benefit in itself. So like anything, of course, everything could be better and changed and enhanced, but I think we do a pretty good job what we're doing just now.
I think just history dictates that government departments have generally failed in certain areas, and it's good to know that that's not the case with what you do. And I mean, as you say, there's a lot of stuff that could be done better.
Sure.
But it's great that you're getting this job satisfaction. You help, as you say, you're helping people.
That's right.
And you're getting reaction and response from them. That's got to be really satisfactory, because a lot of people go to work, they don't get that.
That's right.
They don't get that.
That's right. Yeah, for sure.
Hey, talking about COVID, I know we don't like to talk about COVID. We've discussed on numerous occasions on this podcast about the catalyst that COVID was for a lot of people's lives, good and bad.
Yes.
Good and bad.
Yep.
Now, there's a good story from your camp coming out of this, because you started running during COVID.
Yes.
At the age of 40.
I'm going to say 47, maybe.
47.
47, yes. Yeah. So 2000 I started running at I guess 2021. Well, I started walking actually 2021, fast walking, before I progressed to running. But it got me into running. I think COVID was a huge positive. I'm glad you mentioned that, because I don't look at it enough, or I guess reflect on enough of why, because I always try and look at the positive sides of things, because then that keeps me, I guess, embraced, and also I guess it keeps me focused on goals that I want to achieve in the future now. So where I wasn't programmed like that prior, I'm a little bit programmed different now, which I quite like. The newer version, I think. Well, not a newer version, but
2.1.
Yeah, whatever it is. But I guess I was no different from lots of people, a lot of friends I knew. Of course, I was very overweight. I was not the healthiest person. I enjoyed a beer or two, or maybe three even, and all probably the poor skills that are poor traits that most unhealthy people would have. I had them all, and I knew at that stage, in around that time, I needed to do something about that, because it was just probably never going to fix itself.
Was there a catalyst? Was there a discussion that you had with yourself internally, or your wife, or a comment your son made to you? Was there something that switched in your head?
I don't think there was. I think I always knew that. I mean, I've had many a time. I've tried every diet in the world. I've tried all sorts of things you can imagine over the years, like a lot of people have, and I was no different. For me, I guess I thought to myself, right, we're locked up in this bloody house. What are we going to do? We've had a little time in a day we're allowed to go out and do things, whatever that was. So how can I convert this into something positive, And,
did work stop for you?
No, we work didn't stop for me personally. We were still kept on, albeit we were just doing a range of different kinds of things.
But you weren't travelling. You weren't travelling to. So you've got a place to travel to. Do you travel to an office? Do you travel to it? So
yes.
you one office or multiple places?
Multiple office within the southeast metro region. Yeah.
Okay.
So we work out of all the offices, but again, we were working from home then, like everybody else.
So that stopped. So you're working from home.
Yeah.
Okay.
So and so that was very different to do that and work from home. And of course, initially thinking, how good is this? We're all at home now. We don't have to get up. We don't have to go here.
The novelty wore off quickly, didn't it?
Well, it did. It got boring after a while, thinking, I can't even go out. I can't drive my car. I was thinking, what's...
Bloody kids, annoying.
Yeah, of course. I remember we took photographs. We were looking at pictures actually a few weeks ago where we had our dining table set up like a school. It was funny when you think about it now, but my wife took this really seriously, and rightly so. She was more serious than me, but we had a split down the middle. We had one kid there. We had a laptop on each side. We had all the lights and all this. It was like a classroom, thinking, this is unbelievable. How good is this going to be? And sometimes I would be the principal. I would be in charge, which wasn't
well,
good.
So you should. You're the elder statesman. It's your role.
I think the second day in, I had one was expelled, I think, within the first hour, and the other person was standing outside the front door. I was running the tight ship.
Did anybody get the cane?
Day 3 was a free for all. Just look after yourselves. As long as you get that done, yeah. And then we're good.
Yeah.
So
and no drinking until after 12.
No, definitely after 12. Yeah, definitely after 12. But it was funny when you think about it now. It was a wild time. But everybody was involved in it, or everybody get into it. So. So from that then, I think I just wanted to go and do something. I think what a great time, great opportunity to do something now. I've got a little bit of time now. I do want to, maybe I can try and get a little bit fitter here. I mean, years ago, played rugby, we spoke about that. I was always fairly fittish, but I was always heavy. I was always heavy. I was never like, I'm lighter now than I ever have been. And
What
this
was
is
your
my
heaviest?
list.
Do you mind me asking?
Yeah, I'm going to say probably 155 kilos.
Fuck.
Yeah.
So you're 6, what are you, 6'1"?
I'm 6'3",
Oh,
just
you're
under
6'3".
6'3". Yeah, I mean, I carry my weight well. And one thing I'd never say is it never ever held me back from doing anything ever. It never stopped me.
Seems like a big number. Like
It is.
I've seen a couple of your before and after photos. I don't know whether that was at your heaviest,
Yep.
but that's like 2 of me. You know,
Yep.
it seems like a lot.
Yeah, that's
for
right.
for the frame. So
So I mean, I'm 87 now. So
That's
you can
amazing.
imagine. So it is like literally half, or well, I mean not half, but it's certainly a fair bit different. So
congratulations, by the way.
yeah,
For people to start that journey and to get an end result that they're satisfied with
Yep.
is just amazing. It means that they've completed a task, and along the way they've got some new skills. They've got a different perspective on life.
yep.
Things look better. They seem different. You're eating better. Life's better.
That's right. And I guess you've got a new, a new perspective on things now, and a new outlook, and just new energy. I've got batteries now that are charged, where before I had batteries that were never activated. They were there. I was just lugging them around all the time in my back. I wasn't really using them or doing anything with them. So in a nutshell, really, I started walking, and back where I lived in a small village, we had, so every power pole, true story, every power pole, I think it's 200 meters between each power pole. So we used to walk a pole, run a pole, walk a pole, run a pole.
Perfect.
That's how it started.
Well, that's how a lot of people start.
Yeah, and it was down this dirt track, nobody around. It was close to where I lived, and so I did that usually most days, and we had a young pup back then as well, so that was great. And we got him purely to encourage us to get out more, enjoy outside more. And he's a blue heeler, so a great dog, full of energy, cattle dog.
exactly.
He just wants to go anytime there's a run or a ball. He's there.
It's the perfect coach, mate.
So he runs with me a lot just now. I think he's a great wingman to have. He just loves getting out running. But then, so from that, we came across a fellow who you know, Alan, as well.
Shout out to Alan again.
Yeah, how good is he?
He's amazing.
He's a great man. I've got a lot of time for Alan. But there was a lady and a good. I was the CFA member back then, and.
So that's the Country Fire
Country Fire Authority, yeah.
For those people that don't know.
Yeah, his wife had said to me, "Do you know there's a running club not far from here called Langwarren?" I said, "I wasn't aware of this." I said, "Listen, I'm not ready for no running club. I'm just happy to do these poles, whatever, you know." And I thought to myself, I was able then to go and do 5 in a row, which is a kilometre. I'm thinking, how amazing is that? I've run a kilometre. Now I can run the back. There's 2 kilometres. So as time went past, I guess I've always thought, maybe I could join that club. But of course, like anything, we have these things where we're thinking, I don't want to go there. They're going to be really good. They're going to be really fast. I'll get left behind. It'll just be a disaster. We have all them demons that we're just scared to think about. I don't want to.
Well, it's a fear of the unknown.
That's
exactly.
Right.
You know?
I've never done that before. Never ran. But on that day there, which was a local, it was I guess the new members day, which I went along, joined the Facebook group, and I put it off. I said, new members day, come along, have a coffee, meet the people, do a lap if you want, see how you go. I thought, I'm going to pick up the courage and go.
Was this during COVID or COVID had finished?
This was kind of just probably, I think it would have been after COVID, so we were allowed to then integrate and speak and talk, yeah. So I think so. I can't get me.
It must have been if you were meeting in a park. Well, I suppose sometimes they said you could meet in a park, but you had to stand like a.
That's right.
It was just fucking ridiculous, wasn't it?
There was restrictions, and that's where I met Alan. So again, I felt comfortable with him, easygoing. Great conversation.
Alan could talk the legs off a chair, and that's not a bad thing, Alan, because I know Alan's listening. Because the reason why you're here today, and a lot of the guests that we've had, is because of Alan. So I've got to thank him because, as I said previously, it's hard to get people to sit opposite me and sit here and have a conversation. And Alan has facilitated 3 or 4 of our guests, and they've been real like yourself, interesting people with interesting stories to tell. And it's just great to have the privilege to sit down and let them tell and let you tell your stories. That's what makes me happy.
That's right.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Back to the running club.
So that was that. So yeah, listen, I liked it. I felt comfortable then, and quite a few people were new that day as well, like me. So then, like literally, I've ran most weeks. If I don't run with them on a Saturday, I'm running an event or I'm doing something for myself. So very seldom have I missed a Saturday since then. And again, with that running then just really enhanced the weight loss. It just seemed to.
And those results are amazing when you start seeing them happening. You just want to keep running. You just want to keep doing what you're doing.
That's right. And there's a high that I get from running now. And I guess you yourself have done running in the past, I know, and you've done lots of things, so you'll understand that. But like there's endorphins that go off in your body for me that are very hard to find in other things, you know. And
I totally agree. And when I stopped running, I knew I was going to miss that.
Yeah.
I mean, sure, there's other things that you can do to sort of get a little. It's not the same.
No.
It's not the same as running.
That's right.
You know, yeah.
So when I did my first half marathon, which to me was huge, because I'd done a few 5s, then I'd done a 10, which was, I thought I was going to die after that. I'm thinking, oh, that was great. But there was a sense of achievement. And then obviously, you know, I think maybe 8 or 9 months had gone past since that. And then I was feeling that kind of, well, I could maybe tap into a half marathon. I remember the first half marathon we done with one of the new guys who I'm still friends with today, and I run with him as well. And we did a...
What's his name?
His name's Nick. I can't pronounce his second name actually, but his name's Nick. Great fella actually.
Shout out to Nick.
Yeah, but we run the Run Melbourne back then.
We've got a photo of that. Was that's the one? Have you got that one? Because you finish in the MCG. No, or is that? Have you done a marathon?
Yeah, I haven't. I've done quite a few marathon distance runs, but I actually haven't done an official full marathon. I've done many half marathons.
Have you got that? Are you awake?
Yes. Give it up, Rodney.
Yeah,
that's the half.
That's the Melbourne half there.
And so the half finished in the
MCGs. That's the MCG.
I thought it was only a marathon that finished. That's probably because I made a comment that when I finished the marathon in 2012 at the MCG, there was a speckle of people in the stands, and one of our friends, Benny, did last year's marathon. Yeah. And was this last year's?
That was 2 years ago. 2 years.
Look at the amount of people in it. It's insane, isn't it?
That's right. I mean, and the atmosphere is great when you run around it. It's interesting you should mention years ago probably not as many, but now there's as many spectators around that area. I'm assuming I actually didn't think you could get in there to spectate and watch. I didn't think that was allowed.
Well, it's always been a part of it, but as I said, the growth of the support.
That's right.
I don't remember that many people when I crossed the line.
Yep.
And It since then in the last 10, 11 years, it's just absolutely exploded.
Yeah.
And that's testament to a lot of things. But the main thing is people getting healthy.
That's right. Well, I think it's like a little bit like my story. You know, it's like people from COVID has really inspired running. I think running now is seen more of and not just from a physical. I just think it's great from a mental health refreshment. I mean, I ran this morning, which was great. Just knowing that when you get up, yes, you're fatigued, yes, you're burnt out, you're doing all these things, whatever it is, but it's just that sense of achievement, the sense of I've got the whole day to do what I want now, and I've already achieved some big boxes already. Where most people sometimes are still in their bed. Sometimes I get up at 5 a.m. and run, you know, and I'm back at 7, washed, dressed, and way to work, and I've done maybe 10, 12, 15 Ks, which is...
And you're ready to smash the day.
Yeah, and I'm ready to go for another day, and I've already done, or some people, so there's a I'm not too sure of what the stats is, but I think running is still a very small number of people in the world who run, but I think for me it's been great. It just gives me clarity when I run. I really like it. Sometimes I don't really listen to lots of music. I love, depending where I am, I just even enjoy I guess this morning I was down at the Two Bays Trail, so I've done the Two Bays a few times, but I ran down there this morning, and just being able to run the trails. You're up in the mountains, you got the clouds down below you. You know, you're seeing the wildlife, and you go through different scents and smells. These are all emotions.
That's a photo of you there, isn't it?
That's last year, yeah. So that was the
28
28, yes.
So you've done a half, you've done a 28 trail. You haven't done a marathon.
I haven't done official. I've done marathon distance a few times, but I haven't done an official
Is that on the agenda to do?
I've got a few things I want to go past a marathon. This year past, I was down to do the 2 bays. So there's two distances. So you got the 28 and then you got the 56. I was planning to do the 56 this year, and then I had a little bit of an injury in around Christmas, probably before Christmas, and then I had a pull out of the Melbourne Marathon, which I had planned to do last year.
Okay.
I tore me hamstring, which was really, for me, it was literally a pain in the ass injury, and it just lingered for a long time. So unfortunately, I had to give my bib away to another great guy who took that, which was good. But so the 56 you have to qualify. You have to qualify for the 28 as well. So you have to do a half marathon at a certain time, and then you have to do for the 28, and then for the 56 you have to do a full marathon at a certain time as well.
What's the cutoff for the 28?
The 28 is 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Okay.
Half marathon
Yep.
to qualify for the 28, and then I think it's 4.5 hours full marathon for the 56.
It's pretty reasonable.
It is. It's achievable for I guess for most recreational runners. I think achievable.
Well, we had Travis in the
Yes.
studio a couple of weeks ago. Unbelievable.
He's
an absolute fucking machine.
He's built different. He's a different person completely. Great guy by the way as well. And when you speak about inspiration, he's done some great things, and he's nowhere near finished. He's got lots.
I
of
know.
plans.
I know.
So he's
So inspiring too. It's just,
100%.
I mean, the same story. He started by putting his runners on and doing one foot in front of the other.
That's right.
You know,
That's right.
and just to hear the times that he's doing, it's just it's inspirational. I mean, anybody that sets a goal and achieves it, my hat's off to you.
That's right.
It's just, you know, people should be doing more of that. And we were talking about like traveling and stuff. Having always something on the calendar that you can look forward to,
Yep.
or to train towards.
Yep.
You know, goals to set and
That's right.
and boxes to tick.
I've
Otherwise,
always
what's the
said-
point? You know, what's the point?
You gotta have. I think that's the beauty about running for me is I've gotta have always one or two events that are in the future. It might not be tomorrow or next week or week, but even if they're a month or 6 weeks or perhaps 2 months away, then that's a great thing, because I think that keeps you honest. It also keeps you accountable of what you want to do and what you need to be doing. And because like anything, I mean, the marathon, when you look at it, 42.2 kilometers. It's nothing compared to the amount of training you put in for a marathon. You could do 1,000 kilometers of training, but it's down to that 42.2, and that's the bit you're kind of judged, or you're going to be harsher on. But forget about the early mornings and the big nights. You've done all that training. That's the hard work there. So I think if you can do that and position yourself well and put yourself into that position where you're able and fit and feeling strong, then I'm not saying by any means the half marathon or the full marathon's easy, but you're positioned better. You can go a little bit harder, I guess, or push boundaries
Well,
harder.
it comes down to those 5 Ps, doesn't it?
Yeah, 6 Ps.
6 Ps.
Yes.
Is it 6 Ps? Because you got piss poor performance.
Yes.
I used to work for a V8 race team, and it was 5 Ps. We didn't have the piss in there.
Yeah. There's the Irish part coming out. Yeah.
So what's in the agenda for you, running wise? What are we looking forward to right now? You're not injured. You, as you say, you whacked out a 30 today.
Yes, just under 30 this morning. I did 2 runs this morning down the peninsula. So I think in the future there's a couple of events. I do want to get into that. I mean, I look at running very differently. I think I did when I started running, and I kind of get into that mind space. I quickly then was almost running too much, trying to grow too fast, trying to achieve too quickly. And I think there's a real crucial part there. You got to be realized that when you get an injury, it's a pain in the ass. Something happens, it puts you out for a little while. It's hard because it plays with your mind. You can't get involved.
Definitely,
all these
yeah,
things, and
yeah.
I'm sure Travis would have touched on that as well. Perhaps it's because I think he's currently injured also. So it's one of those ones where you got to be very mindful. And I think one thing I've learned with being injury is I think you need to be very more important when it comes to stretching and the rehab. Whenever you're feeling good, that's the time to do it. Not when you're a bit stiff or niggly, because that's the start of something. It's too late almost.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think I would never say never, but there's an event I want to do this year, which is called there's a few of us doing which is called the Surf Coast Century. So I was originally going to do the 50-kilometer run there. That's in September. However, we're now going to do the relay 100. So there's 4 of us. And one of the girls or ladies I've run with this morning, she's part of our team. So we'll do it's split between 24 and 28, whatever it is, each leg with different elevations. And we'll do the 100. That's going to be fun. And
Surf Coast, where's it run?
That's based over in Lorne, that kind of area across there.
Yep.
Yeah, so quite a bit of elevation involved. But again, there's a couple of our runners in our club doing the full 100 actually, which is
it trail or road?
It's trail, and believe it or not, the first 5 or 6 kilometers actually beach, I think. I believe.
Oh, really?
So luckily I haven't pulled the first leg straw because that's a killer.
Say, fuck that.
I know, beach soft.
That's how you do an Achilles, isn't
That's
it?
right.
It's like, Jesus.
So that so we're doing that, and then there's a little run we're doing down the Devil Bend. That's in August. Again, these are things that I've plugged in because they give me something to work towards. They keep me accountable, and then I want to do the Great Southern Endurance Run, which is 56 kilometers. That is in I believe September, October, November time this year. So that's one of my bigger goals for this year. But I've had a busy year running, believe it or not. When I look back, I was chatting about this morning when I was running, I've probably overcooked it this year about what I've done, and I've reflected back thinking, do I really want to continue that momentum moving forward? Sometimes less is more. I think, I still enjoy running, getting it out, and the beauty about Langwarren is very much a social. We have a coffee at the end. There's different distances. Should it be 6 right up to maybe 10 or 11, whatever. There's no. Yeah, you can run fast if you want. You can run at a faster pace, or you can have a chit chat and So it's a great way to kind of keep. And that was one of the beauties that I liked about it was it's a great way to, engage with people and having that social side of it, which is really important as well. And
well, as you said, running can be a little bit of a selfish sport and a little bit lonely, can't it?
It can be, yeah.
So to have a club like that, and as you say, you can choose your pace, you can choose your distance.
Yes.
You can choose to engage or not to engage.
Yeah.
But it's good to know that you've got that support.
That's right. And just recently I did, which was really good actually, but I did, I'm not too sure if you know of David Goggins. I'd be surprised if you didn't. David Goggins.
It rings a bell. The name rings a bell.
He's a bit of a freak runner. Has done some crazy things over his period of running. He has ran like
Google that, Mev.
David Goggins, but he's a super. I don't want to use the word crazy, but he's a very, very interesting character when it comes to extreme types of challenges that he does. And
so he's nuts.
He can be, yes. There he's there.
Oh yes,
yeah, Goggins.
Yes, I know him. So because obviously he's popped up in my socials, and obviously, so from ultra marathons to Guinness World Records, David Goggins is considered to be by many to be among the world's best ultra endurance athletes.
Yeah. He's a I mean, I don't follow him, or I don't. He's not like that, but he is quite inspiring with some of the things he does. And so one of the challenges I did just recently at the start of this, from the 23rd of May, I started the challenge, which is called the 4x4 by 48. And I do like challenges personally because, as I mentioned, they keep me
accountable,
keep me going every day. They give me something that I have to work on. Because I think there's always work we can do there. Should it be whatever we're doing, there's always something that we can grow and learn. And the 4x4 means which is 4 miles every 4 hours for 48 hours. So when you work it back in kilometers, it works out about 6.45 kilometers every 4 hours for 48 hours. So spaced over 2 days. And I started locally, so that was the challenge. That's called the Goggins Challenge, and so I wanted to do it, which I successfully did. However,
what's the basis on the concept? So you're saying 6.4 k's, thereabouts every 4 hours.
Every 4 hours. So every 4 hours you start a new 6.5 kilometers. So I rounded it off to 7, and the reason why I did that was because I wanted to get a distance of 2 marathons. So after 48 hours. You run, if you do 7 kilometers, you run 84 kilometers within 2 days. 2 days, which is 2 marathons, as we know.
I'm not doing the math in my head.
Yeah.
So 7, would you say 7 Ks?
7 times. So there's 12 runs within 48 hours.
Right.
Yeah. So 7 times 12.
But there's a big gap between completing your 7Ks and then starting your new one.
There is. Well, you think there is, and it's interesting you should mention that because that time goes pretty fast, believe it or not.
Because 7Ks, 5-minute Ks, that's 35 minutes.
Yep.
So 3 hours and 30 minutes.
Yes.
You're standing around.
Well, you're not. So you can if you want, but
what are you doing?
So the way I designed it was, the way I kind of tailor-made it was, a lot of my runs started not far from where I lived, and I reached out to the club and I got a lot of support with people who ran with me. So you can imagine you're running through the night as well. So I worked it out where my last run would be running with the Langwarren running crew on that Saturday at 7:30. Okay, so that's how I worked. So I worked back from there, which meant me starting on the Thursday at 11:30 in the morning time. Went out, did our 7, came back, took a quick snap of the guys, headed off, stretched, had some food, tried to rest, and then back again 4 hours later. So it sounds like that, and I thought it would sound like that as well.
It does sound a bit weird, doesn't it?
But when you get into your 6th run and you're back again at that same spot, going off again for another 7 kilometres, starts to hit home pretty fast.
I tell you what, it's a shame that I don't run, because I would have to after listening to that.
Yeah.
I would have to do that.
Yeah, it's a good
just because it's intriguing to me.
That's right. Well, that's why I did it, because it was intriguing as well. But also, I think the beauty about, or one of the main growths from that, is to work, I guess, from the mental side of running, because we focus hard on, I guess, the running, the physical side, which is really important. But we also don't think too much about, if you're out running in a marathon and it's taking you 3-4 hours, or that's a long time when you're focusing on running 4 hours or 3.5 hours, or in Travis's case, it's 2.5 hours.
I know, it's nothing for him.
That's right, but it's still a period of time, and I'm sure there's a lot of thoughts go through your head on there, what you're thinking and how you're planning that, and all sorts of nutrition in the middle of that. But that's a side that I have seen where I need to grow a wee bit more and get used to. So if I want to do some of the bigger events, if you're running for 6 or 7 hours potentially at these things, then
it's about being inside your own head for that period. It's not
right.
just being on your feet, as
that's
you
one
say.
Thing. That's right.
It's about being inside your own head.
And it's not listening to the demons in your head and wanting to stop, or being able to cancel it out and focus on the long term of the race or the goal.
Yeah, it is. It's like a lot of things. It all starts up here. I mean, whether you're training in the gym, it's 90% mental.
That's right.
Don't give up. Don't stop. Don't do this.
Yep.
It's all been driven by what's going on in your grey matter.
Yeah. So that's right. So I did that. That was a great challenge, and again, I was really lucky to have a lot of support from the club. A lot of people ran with me at different times. I mean, again, two of our runs were 3:30 in the morning a.m. And I had, I think, the first day I had 3 people showed up, and then the second day I had one fella who showed up as well. So I only ran one of the runs on my own with a dog, and the rest of them I ran with other people, which made it definitely a lot easier. But it's a good challenge. It's an interesting.
It sounds like it.
Yeah.
But you've ticked that box now. You can do something else.
That's right. Yeah.
So as far as, because you're talking about distance runs, what's in your head? Is there amount of Ks that you want to tick off? Is there a 100K event? Is there 150? Is there you want to do 10 marathons in 10 days? Where does it stop for you, or where do you see yourself going?
Yeah, I think it depends. I mean, I'm turning 50, as you know, so I've got to be also mindful of what I want to achieve, and I guess what I'm prepared to put my body through as well, because it's like, but I do think that running for me it has been really great for my body. It hasn't been, yes, we get the odd niggle, we might have the odd fall, you might have the odd injury here or there, but we can seem to patch things up. Some take longer than others, but it depends what you want to. For me, what I want to do, and again, I want to slow down with that, because I think I've been running too fast, too soon, trying to tick too many boxes too quickly, and that's I guess probably a pretty common mistake most people make. When you see people doing 56 and 100K runs, they they could be running for 10 years. So they've got a great platform or a great foundation of running, and they're pretty adapted to running, so their body's used to that, So for me, coming through such a short time, only 2.5 years, then it still probably hasn't nowhere near got used to that type of punishment yet. So when you're doing, I guess, 30s and 40s, whatever it is, and then trying to push in there to that 56 mark, which I think is achievable, and I think that's something that I want to aim towards. I would never say never to, could I ever run 100 kilometres? I reckon I would like to give it a crack. I don't know where exactly, and because most of these events should be Kosciuszko, or should it be the UTA, or should it be even the Surf Coast, which is across Lauren, there's usually a fair bit of elevation coming with these as well. So it's not flat runs. They're not like easy. They're not like they're not road run. They're not. There's a lot of terrain, different surfaces, different all sorts of challenges up against that. So and the UTA, which I know Travis has done, and a couple of the other guys have done just recently actually. These are hard runs. They're hard runs.
Yeah, it's hard to wrap your head around it, isn't it?
It is.
As you say, the progress that you've made in this short period is amazing. You've seen the results. You've lost weight.
Yes.
You're in a better frame of mind. I think you'd classify yourself as a better class of man.
Yep.
You've got more clarity.
Definitely. Yep.
And I hope you never get to the point where you can't run.
Yes.
Which is a horrible thought.
Yeah.
So prior to that, it's about, as you say, ticking these boxes and achieving what you want to achieve as your body will, because you're smart.
Yeah.
You're older, you're smarter, you know what your body can and can't do.
That's right.
And what it will be able to do in the future. So all I can say to you is, mate, you're inspiring. Thank you very much for your time today. I don't often research my guests because I want to know in real time about their history, and your history has been amazing. We could probably talk for another hour or so. I'm sure there's some more stories out there. So as I said, once again, thank you very much. I really appreciate your time.
Perfect.
And that's a wrap, Matt.
Thanks for having me. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you for tuning in and for your time. You know the vibe, I'm steady living until I die. It's a loose state of mind, and we showed you that. Keep it authentic and real, I hope you coming back. Hey, make sure that you subscribe, cause we got it popping all the time, and it's going down. If you wanna elevate, wanna live a better life, keep it locked here. You know it's a loose state of mind, let's go.